The young Taoist brought along his own buff. He appeared in midair, saw Long Fei, and walked down step by step. Every step he took, a symbol would appear under his feet. The young Taoist brought along his own buff. He appeared in midair, saw Long Fei, and walked down step by step. Every step he took, a symbol would appear under his feet. A rune from immortal Taoist scriptures. Just like a flight of stairs, the runes appeared as soon as his feet touched the ground. Descending from the sky, everyone looked up in shock. This? Who is that child? What is that golden symbol beneath his feet? Is it a rune? Wasn't the rune supposed to be carved on the seal? Why did it appear at his feet? Too cool. Is it the powerhouse that has come to support us? The aura on his body is so special. Presbyter of God's tribe looked up and muttered in their hearts. Have you seen him before? Who is this kid? Is it one of the great powerhouses? Or is he a powerhouse from ancient world? The few elders shook their heads, indicating that they had never seen it before. However, one of the clan elders said, "Look at the expressions on Murong Xiong and the others. It seems like they do not know each other. Since they do not know each other, it means that he is one of us." You're right. The Emperor Xian broke open many seal S in the ancient world, so he might be one of the great powerhouse S. Thinking of this, all the powerhouse of God's tribe S burst with confidence. One of them said, "Did you see that? Our reinforcements have arrived. Do you see his strength? You dregs aren't even enough." Ha! Murong Xiong's eyes secretly tightened and said solemnly, "Everyone be careful." He couldn't feel the power from young Taoist's body, and it was precisely because of this that caused everyone to be cautious, so this seemingly childlike person was not simple. In that instant, the idea sent the order. He could die, but Long Fei definitely could not. Long Fei was the lifeblood of the Mu clan. If anything happened to him, the old man would probably make him unable to take care of himself. The two elders of Xiao Yao City immediately gathered around Long Fei. Elder Swordsman said in a deep voice, his aura, the aura being released from his body, is not from the universal realm. So there's only one possibility: he is from the ancient world. Are the reinforcements from God's tribe here? Senior Mia looked at Tang Long and said, "Tang Long, didn't you say that you have an innate ability to sense demons? The ferocious men from the ancient world are more or less devilish. Do they have it on them?" Tang Long shook his head. I can't sense it." Senior Mia was startled. "And there is also an aura that you, the Devil Slayer Tang clan, cannot sense? This is too strange." The Tang clan had a natural advantage over Qi sensing. As long as there was any trace of demonic energy in his body, he wouldn't be able to escape detection. But it was useless now. Seeing Murong Xiong being so nervous, many of the elders in the God's tribe became even more excited, and their hearts confirmed that the young Taoist was their reinforcement. Moreover, this reinforcement made Murong Xiong feel like he was facing a great enemy. It must be very strong. Presbyter of God's tribe began to clamor. "Are you afraid?" Trembling. "If the shrine randomly sends out a powerhouse, all of you will kneel and beg for mercy." Murong Xiong, are you still arrogant? Do you dare to fight against God's tribe with just your disorderly group of people? You're courting death. Ha! Long Fei, obediently kneel on the ground and kowtow. This is your only way out. Once this powerhouse descends, it will be time for you to die. Ha ha ha! The remaining few presbyter of God's tribe S were incomparably savage. Long Fei gently smiled from the corner of his mouth, but did not say much as he slowly walked forward. Murong Xiong's brows tightened and said, "Xiao Fei, don't go out." The elder swordsman also followed. "Brat, don't go out. That child's strength is too strange. Don't rashly go near him." Xiao Bai and Bing Hua followed behind Long Fei from the left and right. They did not say anything, and no matter what Long Fei did, they would just follow him. It could block bullets for Long Fei at any time. Long Fei said lightly, "Don't worry. I've been missing for a year. Are you all curious about what happened to me during that year? What have I done this year? You will know soon enough." Long Fei walked out of the crowd. Those presbyter of God's tribe S were even more excited, and they clamored, "Are you afraid now? Get out of here and kneel down. Kneel. The dragon race is being stepped on by our God's tribe. Who the hell are you? You still want to jump? Kneel down now. Zwasher knelt down. He knelt down. He was incomparably arrogant and wild. Long Fei was very unhappy. He said indifferently, "You like having people kneel for you, right?" Presbyter of God's tribe sneered. "This is what you common people should do. In your world, do you know why? Because we are the God's tribe, and the God's tribe is the God of your mortal world." God. Long Fei sneered and said, "So what if you're a god? You are gods? Then I shall be the ancestor of the gods." Presbyter of God's tribe coldly snorted. "You're still being so arrogant at this point of time. Brat, you're about to die." And then, the presbyter of God's tribe looked at the young Taoist that was about to land on the ground and said, "Master, he's the brat from Long family. Kill him." Young Taoist was stunned. Long Fei said coldly, "Kill him. Kill him." The presbyter of God's tribe mocked. "Who are you ordering? How could a trash like you order the ancient world around? Long Fei, you should be prepared to die." Before he could finish, young Taoist gave a light "oh." Then, he raised his gaze, glanced at the presbyter of God's tribe, and coldly said, "Explode." Bam! A loud explosion resounded. Presbyter of God's tribe's head exploded open as half of his body fell to the ground. Suddenly, everyone was shocked. The elders and guards of God's tribe were all feeling their heads twist, as if they could not turn around. They looked at the half of their bodies lying in a pool of blood, then looked at young Taoist. An elder said with a heavy voice, "My lord is killing him." He pointed at Long Fei. Long Fei said softly again, "Kill him." "Oh," young Taoist said softly again. And then, bam! Another presbyter of God's tribe fell to the ground. This time the people from God's tribe were all stunned. If the first time was by mistake, then now, this terrifying young Taoist in front of him was definitely one of Long Fei. Murong Xiong was also stunned. "This," elder swordsman said. "Brat, you know him?" Long Fei laughed and nodded. "I do." Seeing Long Fei coming forward, young Taoist also giggled and said, "Senior brother." When the two words "senior brother" came out, all of them were stupefied. The hearts of the people from the God's tribe were trembling. All of them looked at young Taoist with their mouths agape, and their arrogance immediately extinguished. He couldn't be arrogant anymore. Not only were they unable to be arrogant, but they also felt as if they were surrounded by death. His anger was extinguished in an instant. His anger was extinguished in an instant. Two elders died in a row. What made them panic was that they didn't even know how they died. Young Taoist just said one word and they died. What was this called? If the person in front of him was a god, then who was this young Taoist in front of him? An existence that did not require much effort to destroy the mind. Terrifying. The rest of the God's tribe people were trembling inwardly. Long Fei said, "You like making people kneel, right? You like the feeling of being worshipped, right? Is your God's tribe a god? Now, you, all of them, all of you, this old man will kneel down." His voice was filled with rage. Long Fei also erupted all of a sudden. Both of his eyes flared with anger as they radiated with the vicious light of a Tao Tai. Those descendant of God's tribe looked at each other, their bodies trembling. Long Fei shouted, "Kneel!" Young Taoist's aura exploded. Wong. Plop, plop, plop. One after another, they were unable to endure the pressure of the aura being released by Long Fei. And it was even more so when they were unable to endure the power being released by the pressure from the young Taoist. Their hearts felt like they were about to explode. Unwell, an indescribable pain. Dozens of people from the God's tribe all knelt in front of Long Fei. The kneecap took root and firmly stuck itself into the ground. Many God's tribe people kneeled. This scene had never happened before for tens of thousands of years. Other than the Emperor Xian, the people of God's tribe would never kneel to anyone else. Not to mention a wanted man. This scene caused Murong Xiong to be incomparably excited. Ha ha, ha ha. God's tribe? God? Ha ha. How does it feel to kneel on the ground? Although it was just a little God's tribe character. However, their kneeling made everyone's heart tremble. Was Murong Xiong strong? Is Xiao Yao City strong? Even the gods' tribe couldn't do anything to them when they controlled the power of the spatial inheritance. But even so, they could not make so many gods' tribe people kneel. Elder Swordsman was also excited. Ha ha. Good boy, huh? Gritting her teeth. His heart was excited. Long Fei had done what no one had done. Whether it was the disciples of the gods' design attic, the people of Xiao Yao City, Xiao Bai, and the others, all of them had their blood boiling hot because of Long Fei. This man was too domineering. Long Fei coldly snorted and said, "Satisfying?" One of the presbyter of God's tribe's eyes twitched. He was extremely unhappy and said with a heavy tone, "Brat, don't be arrogant. God's tribe's powerhouse is about to arrive. Just you guys wait." Not waiting for them to finish. Bam! A head fell from the sky. He rolled in front of presbyter of God's tribe. Presbyter of God's tribe's eyes suddenly contracted. Grand Elder! The eyes of the disciples of the God's tribe also shook, and their bodies couldn't help but tremble. That head belonged to one of the clan elders of God's tribe. The blood was still steaming. Obviously, he had just died. After the head landed on the ground, a strong man fell down heavily. The corner of his mouth curled up and was filled with contempt as he said, "Is that all? Or is he a supreme elder?" F***CK. Elder Taishong is more or less the same. A lot of people have died outside. How boring. There's not a single person who can fight. The muscular man naturally spoke of the Savage King. Kuang Wang expressed his displeasure. However, hearing his words, an elder of the God's Design attic said in shock, You said that all the reinforcements sent by the God's tribe, all of them, died outside of the God's Design attic?" The Savage King said they're all dead. There wasn't a single one that was more powerful. Just now, I clearly sensed a few powerful auras. Why is it that there aren't any of them here? Have they left? His words were understated. It didn't matter much, but those who heard it were almost scared to the point of pooping. The reinforcements from God's tribe were all dead. Not long after those reinforcements arrived, all of them were killed before they could even enter the God's Design attic. In other words, this sturdy man killed the God's tribe's reinforcements in a short amount of time. How strong was this? In Powerhouse of God's tribe, there is still another sovereign realm highest elder. This group of Powerhouse can sweep across the entire universal realm, but all of them were instantly killed. How terrifying this man was. At this time, Kuang Wang looked at Long Fei and said, "Boss, your world isn't good. There's no one that can fight." They didn't want to let him off just like that. What was he called? Long Fei. Boss, what was the young Taoist called Long Fei just now? Senior brother. These two were suddenly extremely terrifying, but they were actually Long Fei's lackeys. Presbyter of God's tribe was paralyzed on the ground. His brain wasn't working enough. Murong Xiong was also dumbstruck, his heart feeling bitter. He thought to himself, "I wanted to say that Xiao Yao City is my nephew's biggest backer. I didn't expect that. Xiao Yao City is not even a piece of scum." Elder Swordsman also looked at Long Fei with a stupefied face. "It's only been a year since we last met. What in the world happened? This kid, just what kind of special fortuitous encounter did he have?" Boss is mighty. The boss is domineering. Big brother Long Fei is so cool. Abbot Whitebrow secretly wiped away his sweat and rejoiced. "I'm afraid this is the first time in my life that I've made the right choice." Huff! If I had the Ancestor Master as my backing, would the God's tribe even be able to touch my God's Design attic? Senior brother, rest in peace. This God's Design attic will definitely protect you. Long Fei looked at the Kuang Wang and said, "Don't worry, you will definitely fight in the future." Kuang Wang clenched his fists in disbelief. However, since he came here with Long Fei, he had to go out and gain some experience. This world did not have Powerhouse S, but he had clearly felt a few incomparably powerful ripples just now. Those few auras made him boil over with excitement. Long Fei walked forward and asked, "Gods of the God's tribe, who is trembling now?" Presbyter of God's tribe looked at Long Fei. Right now, he did not dare to be arrogant at all, and could only endure it and ask, "Long Fei, what do you want?" Long Fei said, "I don't want anything. Many of the descendant of God's tribe slightly moved their bodies. Long Fei casually continued. Just now, all of you wanted me to die, so I'll let you die as well. Descendant of God's tribe's gaze turned cold and did not wait for them to kowtow and beg for mercy. Long Fei said coldly, "Kill." Young Taoist raised his gaze and chanted an incantation. Kuang Wang said impatiently, reciting the sutra of the transcendental scripture, "How troublesome. I'll do it." He stepped forward and the aura on his body exploded out. Bam! Buzz! All of the descendant of God's tribe died from blood loss. Not a single one of them let out a blood-curdling scream, as they didn't even know how they died. Young Taoist clasped his hands. "It's a sin, Kuang Wang said with disdain. "Young Taoist, I think you're leaning towards the side of the Lord of Buddha more and more." It was also at this time. Long Fei raised his eyes, looked at the artifact forging ancient strong who only had a little bit of blood left, and smiled faintly. "I never let you explode. It's really hard on you." "All right, now you can explode." The last bit of Yang Soul's power was released. The blood on his head instantly returned to zero. System beep. Ding. To control life and death. To keep the ancient artifact forging powerhouse in front of trump card. To control life and death. To keep the ancient artifact forging powerhouse in front of trump card. Kill-in and upgrading system. If he killed someone, he would be able to take in their level. If he leveled up, he would be revived on the spot. Long Fei was equivalent to having an extra life. This was also the reason why he had never blown him up. With young Taoist and Rampage by his side, Long Fei did not need to have any scruples. There were really not many people in Universal Realm that could fight against them. Ding! System notification. Congratulations to player Long Fei for killing refining demons. Do you wish to absorb them? Ding! Congratulations to player Long Fei for obtaining Refining Force. Congratulations to player Long Fei for obtaining the Black Lotus. Congratulations to player Long Fei for obtaining Devil's Bat Leaks. The system sounded out a series of notifications. The things that dropped in the Universal Realm all reached the level of Super Artifact. However, these things did not enter Long Fei's eyes. After making a trip to the Hall of Eternal Life, he was no longer interested in anything that was dropped by the Universal Realm. Refining Force? I have a refining techniques of the Horcrux's family. Your refining force is useless. Black Lotus? What I have suppressed is useless. Lord of all fiends. Long Fei's gaze at the Devil's Bat Leaks trembled slightly. Weapon, Devil's Bat Leaks weight. 1.08 million G material. Rainbow Stone Destructive Power. 10 stars description. This war device is an ancient war device. It is a rainbow divine stone of the Seal's myriad demons. Its battle axe has already been corroded, and its user has to endure the pain of being devoured by the myriad devils. This thing is pretty good. Long Fei was a little satisfied. If it was something refined from a refined demon, Long Fei would not even spare a glance. But this axe was obviously not one. It has a great background. The rainbow divine stone of the Seal's myriad demons. The myriad demons of the primordial era. Every single one of them was the existence of a super hegemon, and it could be said that every single one of them were great devils that had been massacred by tens of thousands or even millions of people. God Sure Feng Seal. When the magic is released, ordinary people cannot use it. Long Fei looked at the Kuang Wang and said, "When I told you to give you a weapon when we arrived, do you still remember?" Kuang Wang laughed. "Boss, I think we should forget about it. Just the weapons of this world." He was slightly disdainful. During the battle outside of God's design attic, Powerhouse of God's tribe had taken out all sorts of divine weapons against him, but those so-called holy artifacts were simply trash existences. The power that was released was not even able to harm his skin. What else was good in this world? Kuang Wang said, "I'm speaking the truth. The level of this plane is too low. Let alone holy artifacts. Even the most powerful weapons are trash in my eyes. Boss, my bare hand are also pretty good." The surrounding people were all shocked by him. The plane's level is too low. Then where did this guy come from? Was Long Fei going to the Outer Realm this year? Good heavens! The Wild King shocked their hearts. After all, he had already seen Ancient World's powerhouse, but this was the first time he had seen it. Long Fei laughed and said, "Don't be in such a hurry to reject it. Take a look first." With a flip of his right hand, he retrieved the devil's bat leaks that he just dropped. The moment he took it out, bam! The battle axe instantly fell to the ground. Long Fei was only holding on to something that weighed more than 1,000,000 kilograms. Not to mention using it. The battle axe fell to the ground. In the blink of an eye, the 10,000 devilish flames on the battle axe quickly spread out like a vine. With the battle axe as its center, it quickly spread and densely filled the entire area. Tang Long's eyes darkened. What a dense demonic energy. And then, Long Fei was secretly shocked. Damn, as long as I come into contact with the axe, I will instantly turn into a demon? Even the earth is the same? The ground turned black. The bluestone floor tiles seemed to be burning with demonic flames. It was very terrifying. Huang Wang was also slightly startled. He took a step forward and said, "Interesting." Long Fei said, "Wild King, using this axe requires you to endure the pain of being devoured by the devouring. If you can't handle it, you will go berserk and get swallowed by this axe. You must be careful." Ha! Huang Wang laughed wildly and did not care about what Long Fei had said at all. He grabbed the handle of the axe. Immediately, all of the devil flame vines retracted and charged towards the raging king's arms. Roots instantly covered the entire arm of the Wild King. His arm turned purplish-black, and veins popped out from his arm one after another. It was extremely brutal. It was as if his arm had been possessed. The Savage King didn't stop him. Instead, he allowed the devil fire from the battle axe to enter his body. After swallowing his arm, he followed the arm and entered the Savage King's chest. It was just like a huge tiger tattoo on a mountain, sinister and terrifying. The black devilish flames were still moving, making it seem even more ferocious. It was just that. What was strange was that when the devil fire reached the Wild King's chest, the devil fire could no longer continue. The Savage King said faintly, "I won't be able to swallow it, right?" The demonic flame looked as if it was being looked down upon. With a bang sound, the battle axe was covered in flames that were dozens of feet high. The Wild King was in the middle, but he still didn't do anything. He stood there calmly. Long Fei watched nervously. If it was him, he probably wouldn't be able to hold it back. "Long Fei, is it dangerous?" Elder Swordsman said softly. Many people were like Elder Swordsman. After all, the demonic flames before his eyes were too terrifying. Long Fei shook his head and said, "Don't worry, he is not an ordinary person. Even the demons of the primordial era wouldn't be able to do anything to him. One of the 3 great celestial kings of the realm. How could he be immortal?" The corner of the Wild King's mouth curled up as he sneered. "Rampage? I like it." As soon as he finished, the Savage King's eyes moved, and his 5 fingers clenched into a fist. Bam! To rise from the ground. To sink, he charged tens of thousands of meters into the air, wielding the battle axe in one hand and hammering down heavily with the other. Rumble! The sky split open. Countless streaks of black devilish flames spread out, covering half the sky. Savage! The Savage King struck again. Rumble! 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 The sky kept splitting apart, but what he smashed was not the sky, but the flames on the hammer. If it was facing the sky, then the sky above God's design attic would have already broken. Anger. Arrogant. You still have the right to be arrogant in front of me. Bang, bang, bang. Vicious and brutal. The flames on the battle axe continuously weakened, before slowly retreating from Huang Wang's body. Not only that, it even revealed a hint of fear. He was extremely afraid. Boom! A loud explosion resounded. The Savage King landed on the ground. At this moment, there was no longer any trace of devil fire on his arm. All of the devil fire had returned to the surface of his battle axe. The Savage King disdainfully said, "Are you still being arrogant? Be obedient and listen to me in the future. Otherwise, I'll turn you into ashes." Such a domineering stroke. Buzz. Suddenly, A sword hum came out from behind the god's design attic. Long Fei didn't have time to ask Kuang Wang how the devil's bat leaks was, as his body abruptly turned to look into the distance. Long Fei didn't have time to ask Kuang Wang how the devil's bat leaks was, as his body abruptly turned to look into the distance. Elder Swordsman took a step forward and said, "What a powerful sword cry, this sword." His perception of sword intent surpassed that of everyone present. A single sword hum could tell the quality of this sword. Elder Swordsman's heart trembled. Long Fei secretly thought, did it work? Then, Long Fei's body moved, his two wings extended out, and he suddenly soared into the sky. He disappeared in the blink of an eye. Wow! Feathered god wings. Murong Xion was slightly shocked. He looked at the wings on Long Fei's back and asked, "Nephew, where are you going?" Immediately, he then took a step into the space and swiftly caught up. The others followed. Not long later, Long Fei landed at the entrance of the immortal Jade Peak. "Senior, was it completed?" Sky Sword. Regarding the sword chime from earlier, Long Fei was extremely familiar with it. Back then, if not for the Sky Sword spirit, he would already be dead. Thus, even if there was no mission, Long Fei had to reforge the Sky Sword. This was his promise to the Sky Sword spirit, and also something that a man had to accomplish. Ha! Ha ha! Ha! Laughter came out from the cave. The cave door opened. God's design craftsman walked out. His face was pale, holding onto a sword with both hands. The blade was very thin. Every inch was incomparably exquisite. God's design craftsman watched as she walked out of the cave. Buzz. Once again, the sword hummed. The sword floated up and directly flew to Long Fei's side. Long Fei said excitedly, "You still remember me?" The Sky Sword nodded. Long Fei also laughed and said, "Looks like you really succeeded in reconstructing it." Sky Sword. Long Fei bowed towards God's design craftsman and said, "Thank you." God's design craftsman stroked his beard and laughed. "No need to thank me. If it wasn't for you, I would be the one thanking. If it wasn't for you, God's design attic would have already become a river of blood. Emperor Xian wants to attack God's design attic this time. If it wasn't for you, no one in God's design attic will be able to stop God's tribe. It's just that." The space between his eyebrows tightened. Long Fei naturally knew what he was worried about. Recasting a Sky Sword was a huge favor to him, so he immediately said, "Don't worry, Senior. As long as I'm alive, I will protect God's design attic." God's design craftsman said, "These words of yours are enough. I also," while they were talking, cough, cough, cough. God's design craftsman coughed continuously as his face became even paler. Long Fei stepped forward to support the God's design craftsman and said, "Senior." He had a kind smile on his face as he looked at Long Fei and said, "I need to thank you. If not for you, I would not have been able to shine for even a moment longer at the end of my life. To me, reconstructing a Sky Sword is an enormous honor, even to the extent where I have been waiting for this entire life. Sky Sword, primordial fur sword. He is also your father's sword." Long Fei said, "Your body." God's design craftsman had been in closed-door training for more than 10 years. He was not seeking a breakthrough, but to recuperate his own refining force. After the ancient world suffered a heavy setback, his energy had gradually declined, and he was no longer able to refine anymore. Recasting the Sky Sword had used up all of its profound chi. He didn't regret it. He even felt that this was the greatest gift the heavens had given him, as well as a chance they had given him to prove himself. He did it. He thanked Long Fei and thanked the Sky Sword. God's design craftsman replied, "I'm fine. My mission has been completed, and it is now yours." Long Fei trembled and asked, "What mission is it?" God's design craftsman's voice was very soft. He was extremely weak right now, and as though he was about to run out of oil, he said, "Sky Sword Spirit told me that your father was imprisoned in Dragon Abyss Dungeon by Long Wushan and is currently suffering from the pain of the dragon lock chain corroding his bones. He's not going to be able to endure much longer. The Sky Sword Spirit wants you to quickly save him." Cough, cough, cough. While speaking, God's design craftsman made another series of hurried coughs. with blood coming out from the corner of his mouth. The sky sword could sense Long Zhanting, just like how Long Zhanting sensed the presence of Sky Sword. That kind of dragon lock chain would move every joint of Long Zhanting's body, and the dragon lock chain would move together with him. The pain was indescribable. No one could bear it. Moreover, the dragon lock chain grew in Long Zhanting's body and continued to devour him. Long Fei's eyes tensed up. He could imagine the scene before him. His fists clenched involuntarily and said, "I'll remember it." God's design craftsman said, "This is what the sword spirit told me to tell you." Next, I want to say a few words about what I saw in Ancient World. However, in Ancient World, I actually saw Emperor Xian destroying Ancient World's evil seal, and Emperor Xian, he, cough, cough, cough. I can't say. The feeling he gives me is that he is not human at all. Long Fei was startled. What was that? Emperor Xian was not human. Could it be a beast? Long Fei did not interrupt. The God's design craftsman said, Emperor Xian is the king of God's tribe. He controls the growth of all the legacies within the ancient world. His cultivation is the strongest in the universal realm and can be considered to be at the peak of powerhouse. However, he is kneeling in front of an evil seal. Pious. It's completely incomprehensible. Emperor Xian kneeled? Long Fei was shocked in his heart. What kind of person was Emperor Xian? The king of God's tribe, the king of inheritance. This kind of super powerhouse would kneel like an ant? God's design craftsman said, I don't know why he kneeled down either, but my intuition tells me that there is something even more powerful beneath the seal, and someone even more powerful than him. Before those monsters under the seal, he can only kneel down, so how terrifying is the seal then? At this time, Long Fei thought about the old demon and the black. Black and White had said many times before that they had lost before, failed once, and now it was Long Fei's turn. If they failed once again, then he would be doomed forever, and this world would be doomed to failure no matter what. Was this the most ancient invasion of foreign lands? Are those monsters from the other realms that are beneath the seal of the first dragon? Was the reason why the Emperor Xian could win against the god of underworld was all thanks to the power of the seal? Otherwise, when Ming Clan was so powerful, and he was only a weak family, it would have been impossible for them to win. God's design craftsman said as he finished his speech, you have to go to Ancient World as soon as possible. If all of those CLS are opened, I'm worried evil will cover the whole world. Long Fei thought, why does this story seem like an outdated Western fantasy movie? However, Long Fei still nodded and said, Amen, I will go to the Ancient World. Nothing else. He had to save his father. But he had one more thing to do before he could save his father. Destroy Shrine. After finishing all the instructions, the last bit of God's design craftsman's profound chi was burned away. His expression slowly stiffened with a faint smile on his face. After finishing all the instructions, the last bit of God's design craftsman's profound chi was burned away. His expression slowly stiffened with a faint smile on his face. Finally, he sat down cross-legged, just like the old monk Yuan Zhou. At this moment, everyone else had also caught up, and when Abbot Whitebrow saw that his master had died, he immediately shouted, Master! Sai, the #1 refiner in Universal Realm. Murong Xiong walked out of the space and glanced at the god's design craftsman, sighing with some regret. He then looked at the sky and said solemnly, It's all because of this damnable god's tribe. Xiao Fei, what are you going to do next? Long Fei looked at Murong Xiong and said, Are you really my uncle? Murong Xiong immediately said, Of course, is that true? Long Fei said, Then you must know where my mother is, right? He had never forgotten the middle-aged woman that had appeared in his mind. He had never forgotten that everything she had done was to protect him. Even though she had memories of the seal, Long Fei treated her extremely well. He knew that it was his mother, the best person in the world for him. Murong Xiong was stumped by her question and laughed bitterly. Ever since your mother came back from the Low Realms, she had only returned once to the Mu clan, and she was a Mu clan at that time. At that time, both the dragon race and the god's tribe wanted to capture her. After coming to the universal realm, Your mother suddenly disappeared from the Mu clan. Don't mention me. Your grandfather also doesn't know where she is. But there's one thing I can be sure of. Your mother is definitely still alive. Murong Xiong said in an extremely convinced manner. Every single person in the Mu clan has a type of power. No matter where one goes, they would be connected to the Mu clan in that plane. The connection between the powers in Mu clan is still there. So don't worry, she will definitely still be alive. As long as a person was alive, anything was possible. It was just that Murong Xiong didn't know what Mu Wanner was enduring at all. She didn't know what she sacrificed to protect Long Fei. But the reason why her connection with Mu clan didn't break was because a super powerhouse at her side was using a divine treasure to protect her. It was only because of this that he was able to survive. Murong Xiong did not know about all these, and other than Mu Wanner, no one else knew either. Murong Xiong said, "Compared to your mother, I think you should be more concerned about your father." Dragons who left the Long family were immediately betrayed by Long Wushan after they returned to the universal realm and were instantly suppressed by the God's tribe. Your father is in an even worse situation. He was directly imprisoned in the Dragon Abyss dungeon. Do you know what kind of place that is? That place. Even if you want to die, you can't. It hadn't even been half an hour when Dragon Abyss dungeon was mentioned again. About his father, Long Fei clenched his fists tightly and thought. Long Wushan, Emperor Xian, wait. Sensing the fluctuations of Long Fei's aura, Murong Xiong said, "You're in a hurry too? I've asked around, and your father is still alive. It's just a little bit more painful. He won't be dead for a while. However, if you want to save your father, it won't be that easy. You have to first enter the ancient world, but the passage to the ancient world is controlled to death by the God's tribe. So unless you get permission from the Emperor Xian, you can't enter at all." Without waiting for Murong Xiong to finish, Long Fei said straightforwardly, "Then let's eliminate the Emperor Xian." Murong Xiong's eyes immediately shook, excitement flashed across them, and he said, "Do you want to make a move against God's tribe?" "Ha ha ha, I knew it. I have long disliked God's tribe. He really thinks that he is a god, the ruler of the world. Ha! What does his Emperor Xian count as? His grandma's legs? Xiao Fei, what do you want me to do?" Murong Xiong was very excited. He hated that he couldn't immediately rush to the shrine to kill him. Only by trampling all over God's tribe's grandsons did he feel good. Long Fei said, "You have arranged for the people of the God's Design Attic to enter the Xiaoyao city and can't force them to do anything for the Xiaoyao city, and you can't intervene even if they leave or leave." Murong Xiong immediately replied, "No problem." "What else?" Long Fei said, "No more." "What?" Both of Murong Xiong's eyes widened in shock as he looked at Long Fei with shock and said, "To deal with such a huge matter as the God's tribe, don't tell me that as an uncle, I have nothing to do?" Long Fei replied simply, "No." Murong Xiong asked, "Do you know what realm I am in?" "I am at the peak of Universal Realm, and I am at the Sovereign Realm. Furthermore, I can control the magic space spell, and I can easily kill the Supreme Elder of God's tribe. Like going to the shrine with you? Ratio, for example, killing a few Emperor Xian's direct disciples?" Long Fei asked, "Are you very strong?" Murong Xiong said complacently, "Of course." Long Fei immediately splashed a bucket of cold water on top of it and said, "Do you have the power of the Rampage King?" Murong Xiong was stupefied on the spot. Quang Wang was completely abnormal. The aura on his body that had killed all the presbyter of God's tribe stirred and directly exploded. Furthermore, the aura that the Quang Wang emitted made him feel like he had strength that could ignore the laws of this world. Murong Xiong grinned. "He is an outer space powerhouse. We cannot compare." Long Fei asked, "Are you as strong as my junior brother?" Murong Xiong said, "Xiao Fei, we are from the universal realm. Let's not compare ourselves to them." Long Fei asked, "Are you as strong as 8 King Kong?" Murong Xiong said, "About that, I'll go arrange for the people from God's Design Attic to leave." Like a frosted eggplant, he didn't have the slightest bit of spirit. His entire body was battered by Long Fei. Murong Xiong left in a dejected manner. Long Fei looked at him and said, "It is very possible that this god tribe is planning to make a move against Xiaoyao City. Uncle, you have to be more careful." Long Fei didn't say it out loud, but in his heart, he admitted it. Moreover, he had already felt it when Murong Xiong first sent someone to protect him in space, and he was very grateful in his heart. Hearing Long Fei call out the two words, "Uncle," Murong Xiong was so happy that he didn't want it anymore. He said, "Don't worry. Although your uncle can't compare to those people you mentioned just now, I'll kill one of those scum from the God's tribe." Long Fei said in a cold voice, "God's tribe has many ancient strong s." Murong Xiong rolled his eyes, revealing an expression, "I don't want to talk to you." Mad King and young Taoist walked over. Xiao Bai and the others also walked forward, but they did not approach Long Fei. They knew that since Long Fei was going to attack God's tribe, they wouldn't be able to help him in any way. Long Fei looked at them and said, "Wait for my return at Xiaoyao City." Looking at them all, Long Fei turned around and said, "Let's go." He didn't want to stay any longer. He was afraid that he wouldn't be willing to. In another place, in a forbidden forest in Universal Realm. Boom! With a loud crack, a stream of energy shot out from the mountain and covered everything within a radius of 10,000 miles. Buzz! The purple mist suddenly retracted and returned to the body of a man. The man was very young. He was quite handsome. The violet fog coiled around him like battle chi. He opened his eyes slightly and let out a whooshing sound. Done. Even without the system, I am still very powerful. Shrine God's Tribe. Shrine God's Tribe. In the Great Hall, all the great elders were gathered. Completely wiped out? Impossible. Could it be that third young master is too weak? Long Family really doesn't know his place. After allowing him to escape with luck several times, he still wants to fight with us God's tribe. Does he think that he has lived for too long? God's design addict should have long been eliminated. And that Xiaoyao City, what the hell is he? After making him bounce around for so many years, it's about time to take his dog life. God's tribe, when did you ever get bullied like this? If Emperor Xian comes back and sees this, he'll definitely not let us off. We have to get back at him. Inside the hall, the various elders were discussing amongst themselves. Even though they were all wiped out, they were not afraid of it. Fear. These two words had never existed in God's tribe before. Suddenly, the frontmost old man stood up, his hands slightly pressed down, and said lightly, "The reason we are gathered here today is to solve all the problems before Emperor Xian returns. What are your suggestions?" The audience slowly quieted down. An elder said, "Great Clan Elder, we must eliminate Long Fei, this dog, otherwise how do you think of our God's tribe? As for how to get rid of him, it's very simple. The dragon ancestors of the Wash Sky Pool are the best bait. I do not believe that he will not appear after hanging the 13th dragon ancestor at the entrance of the shrine. Within the God's tribe palace, there were 13 dragon ancestral saints. These dragon ancestral beings were all people that had fought together with Long Fei before, and all of them were released by Long Fei after he destroyed the seal. Their relationship with Long Fei was very deep, and using them as bait was extremely good. An elder said slightly, "The 13 dragon ancestor were suppressing the Wash Sky Pool. Although they were suppressed by us, they're still members of the dragon race. If they were to be released by us, would the dragon race have anything to say? What does it mean to hang up? Just like a dried-up corpse, hanging by the entrance of shrine like a flag. What did this mean to the dragons? Humiliation. The greatest humiliation. Originally, being suppressed at the Wash Sky Pool was already hard for the dragon race to accept. If they would hang the 13th dragon ancestor on the surface again, it would undoubtedly be an even greater humiliation. At the same time, the moment the 13th dragon ancestor's life was about to be taken away, it would also be rapidly lost. Dragon Clan? It's nothing. The elder disdainfully said, a family that acts as our watchdog. So what if we have something to say? Suppressing the dragon race is as easy as suppressing a dog. As for Long Wushan, this old dog of his, is even more useless than I've ever seen him. Let's say 1. How dare he say 2? If the dragon race didn't have someone as useless as him, they wouldn't have become like this. Of course, it would be better for us to have someone like him. The elder's eyes didn't even contain the dragon's gaze. The clan took it seriously. All these years, the dragon race had been firmly trampled by the god's tribe. Let alone moving, they didn't even dare to say a single word. Long Wushan would pay tribute to the god's tribe every year. Every year, he would kneel in front of Emperor Xian. The dragon race did not kneel on the ground or bow to the heavens. However, as for him, in order to preserve his life, he had done everything. The great clan elder said indifferently, "You are right, the dragon race is not a threat to us. At most, they would bark a few times like dogs, but if they dared to jump out, Emperor Xian would slap them back to their original forms. This bait plan works. Now that the bait has been thrown, how do we set up the inescapable net?" The clan elder laughed. "That is even simpler. As long as he dares to come to shrine, do you think he will be able to leave alive?" Blind arrogance. However, God tribe did indeed have this ability. An elder said, "The power of shrine is comparable to any powerhouse, and also, shrine himself is an ancient holy artifact. If he comes, he will die. Any one of our God's tribes is an inescapable net." The great elder said, "I like to crush people. I can unleash as much power as I want. Since I can kill him in one move, I will not use the second move. Therefore, I still need to set up the inescapable net." One of the clan elders lowered his voice and said, "Great clan elder, doesn't our shrine still have a group of ancient world-s? They have a deep grudge against the dragon clan. As long as Long Fei dares to appear, they will immediately kill him. Do you think that the kid from the inescapable net can escape?" Everyone's eyes widened. Many people snickered. These few years, Emperor Xian had continuously brought ancient strong out of the ancient world. The first thing these ancient strong did when they appeared in the universal realm was to look for people with the surname Long, surname Tang, and the last name Ming. It could be said that all of these people with the 3 surnames universal realm had been killed by them. If they knew that Long Fei was the reincarnation of the first dragon, then, even without God's tribe saying anything, they would have already rushed out. At that time, they wouldn't even need to make a move. These ancient world-s were all-powerful existences that brought along lightning, and even if they were experts at Long Fei's side, they would still be unable to resist it. The first elder's eyes narrowed slightly. He smiled slightly and said, "This plan." That elder said, "Great clan elder, you can rest assured. At that time, they will definitely be happy to kill that brat Long Fei. I am afraid that Long Fei is too weak and cannot be killed by them." Ha, 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 ha. All the elders in the hall burst into laughter. He smiled complacently. "Have a moment." The great elder replied, "Emperor Xian is not here. Before leaving, he gave me the authority to carry out my orders. Now follow my orders." Walala. All the elders stood up with serious expressions. The great clan elder said, "Hang the 13 dragons of the wash sky pool out of the entrance of the shrine and spread the word. Within 10 days, if Long Fei doesn't dare to appear, we will kill one of the 13th dragon ancestor. Yes, the God's tribe will not tolerate anyone who goes against them to still be alive and well." He wanted to completely control the universal realm. He wouldn't give anyone any chance. Long Fei cannot do it either. This time, he wanted to take a look at the powers of the universal realm that were unwilling to be ruled and see the consequences of going against the God's tribe. Long Fei left the God's design attic with young Taoist and Quang Wang and didn't immediately go to the shrine. He still had some things to do. North Desert Domain. Millions of kilometers of desert. Sandstorms raged madly, and there were more than one of them. There were huge independent sandstorms in all directions. At the center of them was a flat area. The dragon's sword descended and said, "Master, it's here. The land of the North Desert Domain seal." In every corner of the primordial 9 regions, the dragon clan's ancestor had set down the seal. Below the seal was the evil demon that invaded from another realm. Long Fei came here for the dragon sword, and also for the demon's underground. His level The level was a hard wound. The level was a hard wound. It was also his advantage. However, his level was too low, so once the body of Towdy gathered all of his rage points, his body would become empty for a moment, which was also a type of gap. If he had been attacked at that time, Long Fei's warrior realm could have easily crushed him with a finger. The reason why he did not absorb the power of the ancient artifact forging powerhouse in God's design attic was because he was not interested in the rank of that ancient strong. It was also because of the power released by the young Taoist and the raging king that caused his heart to secretly tremble. What if he could take the level of an outer space powerhouse? What would happen then? Ancient strong is awesome. Kill not your 18 generations of ancestors. Either he didn't do it, or he would do it to the point where he had to achieve the unshakable realm of Superman. Long Fei looked at the enormous flat ground. Young Taoist said indifferently, "There is a hole down here." Quan Wang looked at Long Fei and said, "Are you going down?" Long Fei nodded and said, "In." With that, Quan Wang raised his sleeves, opened his right hand, and the devil's bat leaks appeared out of thin air. Its black-colored flames ignited, and with a grasp of its hands, it chopped down at the gigantic seal. Rumble, rumble, rumble. The power of the explosion shook the heaven and earth. However, the seal did not move at all. However, the sandstorms of the sandstorms in all directions were shaken into nothingness by his power, and the surroundings also quieted down. This seal can actually withstand one of my attacks. F***CK. That depends on how many times you can make me take an attack. In that instant, veins popped out on Quan Wang's forehead. This time, the energy ripple on his body extended out slowly like a small whirlpool, and at the same time, he moved. With both hands, he grabbed the devil's bat leaks and fiercely waved it. Boom! With a nearly 360-degree swing, he unleashed his strength to its maximum. It fell down heavily. Buzz! The shockwave blew up the sand and dust, and from the center of the flatland, it swirled up like a storm. The sand and dust were blown up to a height of 10 zhong, crazily exploding outwards. If the sandstorm from Tornado City was powerful, then this sandstorm that was produced by the powerful explosion was the destruction of the world. The whole desert was sinking. Billions of tons of sand were swept up, and the entire North Desert domain was shaken, the shock rate covering the entire domain. Strength. Terrifying. It was hard to imagine. However, the seal was still motionless. Moreover, the sand was blown out, the seal was spotless, and the jet-black stones were like fine steel, shining with an ice-cold light under the scorching sun. There was no heat here. Instead, it was somewhat cold. It was very strange. Young Taoist laughed. Quan Wang, your strength doesn't seem to be enough. Quan Wang expressed his displeasure and said, I don't believe that I will be stopped by this small seal. With that, he threw the devil's bat leaks to the side, and with a wave of his sleeve, he threw such a big fist that was as big as a clay pot towards the seal. Young Taoist said, Let me do it. Quan Wang retracted his fist and said, Good, good, good. Then you do it. I'll see what tricks you can come up with. TSK. He is the outer space powerhouse, one of the 3 great heavenly kings of the underworld. But now, he had lost his temper because of the seal. Let alone the power of the seal, even the sky above universal realm was split open by him. However, this seal did not have the slightest scar. Then how strong was the seal? Young Taoist walked forward and said to seal, This is a gigantic piece of land filled with seals. Do you see the many seal runes on there? If you don't destroy these runes, no matter how much power you have, it will be useless. So, first destroy these symbols. Then, the seal will naturally be broken. The young Taoist giggled and then sat in midair. Buzz! Golden runes appeared on his body. The golden runes flew out one by one, landing on the seal runes on the platform like butterflies resting. There were a total of 108 seals. It floated there quietly. The Wild King grinned and said, The second half of the immortal Taoist scriptures? Fuck, you must be cheating. The Savage King had a look of contempt on his face. Young Taoist giggled as he looked at Long Fei. Long Fei laughed and said, "You could do whatever you want. No need to worry about me." Receiving Long Fei's permission, young Taoist's forehead tightened and suddenly shouted out one word, "Explode." In an instant, 108 runes exploded at the same time. Boom, 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 boom. Crazy means exploding. As if a thunderbolt from the highest part of the ninth heaven had directly struck it, the power of the immortal Taoist scriptures was extremely terrifying. Even the young Taoist had a complacent look on his face. If the seal's rune is destroyed, then the seal is naturally broken. However, as the dust settled, the runes on the seal did not disappear, and strangely, there was not even a trace of damage. Ha ha ha, ha ha. Kuang Wang was laughing so hard that he seemed to have gone mad as he looked at young Taoist and said, "You can't do it either. Ha ha." Immortal Taoist scriptures also have times when they are not effective. Ha ha. Young Taoist's face was full of doubt and said, "That's impossible. It can't be like this. There's something strange about this seal." Young Taoist did not understand. The Wild King taunted, "Why are you being so weird? It's just that your immortal Taoist scriptures is too weak. You should just step aside and let me do it." Young Taoist said, "I will try again. Just now I only use a layer of power. This time I will use a total of 10 layers. I do not believe I will not be able to break a single seal." The Savage King said, "I'll do it." "You can't." Young Taoist said, "You're the one who can't." The two of them argued nonstop. Long Fei really could not watch any longer and said, "Sai, all of you can leave, but let me do it." They stopped. Long Fei walked forward step by step and said, "Even though you all are Powerhouse from another realm, even though you all can easily crush Powerhouse from this plane, even though you all are very, very strong and very cool, however, there are some things that you still can't do." Young Taoist said, "Senior brother, your cultivation is too low. You won't be able to break this seal." Kuang Wang also said, "Destroying anything is related to one's cultivation. I can't do it, and you definitely can't do it either." The two of them did not believe in Long Fei either. Long Fei secretly smiled and walked to the center of the seal. With a flick of his finger, a drop of blood essence floated up. Long Fei's body lightly trembled, and he muttered in his heart, "Damn, is releasing blood essence a side effect?" The drop of blood essence landed on the ground. Drip! The moment he landed on the ground, the seal released a halo of light. Next, Kacha Walala. It was like a giant machine operating under the seal. Boom, boom, boom. A staircase that led underground appeared on the flat surface of the seal platform, and the rumbling slowly spread far away before disappearing. The seal was released. The coal was pressing. Long Fei glanced at young Taoist and Kuang Wang, both of them extremely confused. "You two can even do that." Long Fei laughed and said, "Let's go down and take a look." Long Fei was at the very front. Without waiting for Long Fei to continue walking, the dragon sword flew in first, and Long Fei did not stop it. Long Fei was at the very front. Without waiting for Long Fei to continue walking, the dragon sword flew in first, and Long Fei did not stop it. Young Taoist and Kuang Wang were still a bit confused, and only caught up to Long Fei in a hurry when he had disappeared. Seems like there are powers in this world that I don't understand. There are limits to every kind of power. Whether it's seal or erase, as long as I can break through the limits of power. That is the destruction of everything, but it's clear that my power couldn't have done that just now. Is the seal very strong? Use 10 times, 100 times more power to destroy it. Can bear it? There was a limit to the power, and it surpassed the limit by a great margin, thus breaking the rules of its power. Although Kuang Wang did not use his full strength just now, it was clear that he was unable to defeat the seal. The young Taoist said, "You are right. The world that we live in is different from the world we live in. The world that we live in is only a sub-world, and above it is a stronger mother world. It's not that we don't have an original world. It's just that we haven't found one. Who knows? Maybe we were separated from each other by some mother world. I reckon we'll have to wait for Boss to finish the Eternal Lord's trial before we can find our mother world. There are different dimensions, levels, and places. The 3,000 planes below the Hall of Eternal Life was only a very, very small world compared to the immortal world. Long Fei turned around and glanced at them and said, "Don't speak, young Taoist," and Kuang Wang instantly quieted down. In the darkness, the bone-chilling cold air continued to surge, as if it was deep in an Arctic glacier. One must know that there was a scorching hot desert above. Why was this place so cold? Creak, creak, creak. An ear-piercing sound rang out. Young Taoist asked, "Senior brother, what is that sound?" The Wild King's eyebrows tightened, and he opened his right hand. Holding the devil's bat leaks in his hand, he became cautious. Long Fei listened carefully and said, "It seems to be the sound of ice quickly solidifying." Young Taoist said, "Frost?" With such an ear-piercing sound, how low is the temperature below? It was like the sound of glass being broken. If it was frost, the temperature would be too terrifying. As long as they walked over, they would be frozen. The Savage King asked, "What exactly is below?" Young Taoist asked, "Senior brother, what are you doing here? What are you looking for?" Long Fei did not explain any further, saying, "Wait till you see something. Do not be in a hurry to make a move. Listen to my orders." Young Taoist nodded and said, "Okay." Kuang Wang smiled slightly and said, "I want to see what the hell is under the seal that even I can't break through, and see if I can take a beating from it." While they were talking, Kuang Wang took a step forward, walking in front of Long Fei. If it was really as Long Fei had said, and the creaking and ear-piercing sound was the sound of condensed ice, then it would not be an ordinary dangerous matter. He did not want anything to happen to the future Eternal Lord before he completed his experiential learning. He still wanted Long Fei to help him find the Hall of Eternal Life's mother world. So he wanted to pursue an even higher realm of martial arts training. The Mad King's gate was wide open as he casually walked deeper in. Young Taoist walked beside Long Fei. Long Fei walked in the middle. He kept going down, and the deeper he went, the colder the air became. His eyebrows were frozen into ice crystals, and his face was pale. The screeching sound of the freezing ice became even louder. As if walking on ice, the ice constantly cracked. Kuang Wang slowed down and said, "Boss, I'm a bit scared. I feel like we're not walking on stairs, but rather a thin layer of ice. If I'm not careful, I might fall into the hole in the ice. I'm not afraid of anything else, but if I meet water..." Young Taoist secretly laughed and said, "Wild King, are you a landlubber?" The Savage King's face sank. He wanted to retort, but he was unable to do so. He was afraid of water. He was very scared. The young Taoist smiled even brighter and said, "Don't worry. If you fall down, I will save you." Crack! Before he could finish his sentence, Kuang Wang's step missed, and one of his feet directly sank into the ground. Immediately, the Savage King's face turned pale, and cold sweat broke out on his forehead. His right leg wanted to use the force to soar into the sky, but another kacha sound was heard. His right foot also sunk in. The Savage King's eyebrows tightened. F***CK. With a loud shout, the devil's bat leaks in his hand fiercely hacked down. Long Fei shouted loudly. He wanted to stop them, but he realized it was already too late. The axe hacked down. Walala! Walala! The layer of ice quickly ruptured, and half of Long Fei's body sank, followed closely by the young Taoist. And in this ice cellar, both his speed and reaction speed became sluggish, as if they were frozen. Half of the Savage King's body directly sunk into the ground. His face went pale. His body trembled. It could be seen that he was very afraid of water. How could outer space powerhouse, one of the three great heavenly kings of the hidden realm, be afraid of water? It was hard to imagine, when they killed the powerhouse S, who would believe that the Savage King was actually afraid of water and was even trembling in fear. Kuang Wang turned to look at young Taoist, who was beside Long Fei. The young Taoist looked at him and knew that the Wild King was afraid of water. "Don't be anxious. Don't move recklessly. You have yet to sink down. The more you struggle, the faster you will sink." Kuang Wang's heart was unable to calm down. He wanted to shout loudly, but If he really were to do this, he would definitely be laughed at by the young Taoist for 10 years, but he endured it. Long Fei said, "First, pull him up. I'm fine here." The idea moved, wanted to summon the dragon sword back. However, Long Fei was unable to sense the existence of the dragon sword. Young Taoist carefully walked to the side of the Kuang Wang. Seeing his embarrassed look, he couldn't help but let out a poochie sound and started laughing out loud. "I didn't expect you to be so afraid of water." Kuang Wang rolled his eyes at young Taoist and said, "This matter can never be let out to Dark Goddess." "Did you hear it clearly?" Young Taoist replied, "So what if I know? She's my woman, not yours." The Savage King said, "You dare say you're your woman here. Why don't you say so in front of her?" Young Taoist said, "Oh, you dare talk back. Do you want me to save you?" Long Fei saw that the situation was not right and said, "You too, stop messing around." Just as Long Fei finished speaking, suddenly, Kuang Wang's pupils suddenly constricted as he shouted, "Ah, there's something below." At this moment, the Savage King's body was suddenly dragged down and instantly disappeared into the ground. In a moment of desperation, the young Taoist did not care so much as he went directly down the Kuang Wang's hole. It was also at this time, kacha, the layer of ice healed, and there were steps to another floor. It was as if young Taoist and Raging King had never appeared before, and at this time, in the darkness, rays of white light that were the color of Xian crystal sparkled. It was a sword. It was as clear as ice. It was floating quietly in mid-air, as if it was looking at Long Fei. Long Fei also stood in place and looked at him in a similar manner. After a long time, Long Fei asked, "Where did my friend go?" The ice sword let out a human's voice and said, "All of the outer region evils must die." To be able to tell immediately that young Taoist and Rampage were people from another realm, this sword looked different from the dragon sword that he had met in the beginning. The swords refined by the dragon god had their own differences. Their strengths were also different. The level of suppression of the alien demons were also different, and even the loss of power was different. If it was the first time it was in the seal, his fist would probably have been smashed apart by the Raging King, but there was no such thing here. Moreover, the feeling the ice sword gave Long Fei was very strong. It was as if the one speaking to him was not the sword, but an incomparably huge powerhouse. Long Fei's brows tightened and said, "You are a dragon sword?" Bing Jian said, "Yes, but you don't seem like the master I'm waiting for." It was a very direct sentence. Long Fei asked, "Is it just because of the alien friend that appeared by my side?" Ice Sword said, "That's right. The one suppressing the seal is the alien evil. If Master were to reincarnate, you would definitely not be together with the alien evil, so you're not the master I want to wait for." The Dragon Sword said, "Then how can I become your master? If you aren't the master you want to wait for, then you can directly crush him to become your master. There is nothing violence could not solve in this world." The Ice Sword heard the meaning behind Long Fei's words and lightly said, "Just you." He sounded somewhat contemptuous, because with Long Fei's level, he didn't even qualify to attack. With a single slash, Long Fei was reduced to ashes. Long Fei remained neither humble nor arrogant, and said, "That's right, just me." He doesn't admit that he's the reincarnation of a dragon. He's him. He's even Long Fei. He doesn't want to be someone's reincarnation, isn't he your master? Until you admit it. So violent. Bing Jian said, "Those two alien friends of yours are not my match. Do you think with your cultivation level, you can block one of my attacks? What a joke. Hurry up and leave. If not for the dragon sword, you would already be a dead man now." Long Fei said indifferently, "Seems like you have already seen dragon sword before. That's even better. Since I can become his master, naturally, I can also become yours. Just now, you said that you can't block one of your attacks. Then 10 moves. Ice Sword said, "What 10 moves?" Long Fei said, "I won't die after taking 10 moves from you. Obediently submit to me." Buzz! The sword vibrated, and the entire abyss began to emit explosive sounds. The cracking sounds were especially ear-piercing. Long Fei looked at his own feet. The speed at which ice condensed could really be seen with the naked eye, and the ice continued to attack his feet, as if tens of thousands of tiny white worms were rushing towards him. Crash! Frost froze on his shoes. In an instant, his feet seemed to have grown roots as they were nailed firmly to the ground. He was unable to move at all. Long Fei did not struggle. As if nothing had happened, he looked at the ice sword with a calm expression. Do you dare to accept the challenge? If I lose, I'll leave or die here. I won. You take me as your boss. The ice sword said heavily. I would like to see how many lives you have. Long Fei's words were a form of humiliation to him. A person from the warrior realm actually dared to say such arrogant words in front of him. One must know that the ice abyss was an existence of 18 outer space demons S of the seal. He did not even put the outer space powerhouse in his eyes, a mere warrior realm. How dare he be arrogant? The ice sword was enraged by Long Fei. In that instant, buzz, a cold light flashed, and the ice sword shouted, First move, kill. There was no cultivation technique, only an ordinary slash. Although it was just an ordinary slash, but it was much more powerful than those divine-level cultivation techniques. The entire sky seemed to freeze up with a wave of the ice sword. All of the energy rushed towards Long Fei. As long as it entered his body, Long Fei was sure that his entire body would be frozen. However, there was a very important question. Could the ice sword cut into his body? The sword came slashing down with the power of frost. The long ice crystal beneath the ice sword chopped down towards Long Fei's head. A cold light flashed. Long Fei's hair instantly congealed into white frost, and his body was also completely frozen. Long Fei moved. Inside the broken pubes, the many black holes began to operate. The ice sword was originally going to test, but Long Fei did not move at all when facing this sword strike. It was as if it was completely ignoring him, and the anger in his heart surged. He did not stop. It was a heavy blow. Boom! The sword hums rang out in all directions, but in the instant the ice sword touched Long Fei, the ice melted and all of the frost energy wildly disappeared. Under the ice sword, several bee scales appeared on Long Fei's forehead. The ice sword reacted and instantly flew out. Long Fei smirked and said, First move. The ice sword stared at Long Fei without speaking for a moment, but in its heart, it was extremely shocked. What was the power released from his body just now? However, Long Fei did not give him any time to think and said, Continue. You think you're amazing just because you blocked one of my attacks. I didn't even use a single layer of my power just now. The ice sword raged. Boom! Rumble! Sky-shattering sword strike. This time, he released a sword move. The sword shadows danced a few times in the air. Suddenly, the sky was filled with sword shadows. Countless icy sword shadows bombarded down, layer by layer, like hundreds of mountains. Long Fei did not move. The power of frost heavily struck his body. His body sank a little, but he was able to resist it. The second move, continue. If he could block the first attack, but not the second, then he would be in a bit of a bad mood. Not to mention the warrior realm. Even if the sovereign realm would not be able to take this attack. Boom! The ice sword flew into a rage as it released another powerful sword move. Boom! Even after chopping at Long Fei's body, he still did not move an inch. It was just that there were a few more bee scales on Long Fei's body. The third move, continue. The fourth move, continue. The fifth move. The sixth move? It's the ninth move already. There's still one more move left. This is your last chance. Otherwise, you will have to acknowledge me as your boss and obey my commands. Long Fei reminded her indifferently. In these 9 consecutive moves, Long Fei had been receiving damage all this time and did not counterattack. After these 9 moves, frost had already tightly covered his feet, as if cement had been poured over his feet. But Long Fei did not move like a boulder. At this moment, the ice sword had completely gone berserk. He had never been so humiliated before. Even if he was suppressed here by Xinchalong's sword, He had never been this humiliated before. He had never been like this even when he had faced the invasion of millions of alien demons. 9 moves in a row, not even a single hair on the opponent's head was damaged. Not even that. The key point was that Long Fei was just standing there and allowing him to attack him. It was the same as chopping firewood. He did not even hack the bark off 9 times in a row. What kind of tragedy was this? Buzz, buzz, buzz. The sword hummed from all directions. It was like the breathing of an ice sword. It was very ear-piercing. Long Fei stood there quietly and said, "It's the last move. You must grasp it well. If you can't hurt me with this, you will lose." Buzz! A buzzing sound was heard. With a wave of the ice sword, it immediately became 9. The surrounding aura was obviously off. Moreover, the surrounding ice began to quickly melt. Long Fei secretly frowned. "Do you want the enlargement stroke?" This move was completely different from the previous 9 attacks. It was as though it had transformed into a type of power. At this moment, the dragon's sword suddenly flew out and said, "Frost, you can't." Ice Sword ignored him. "Go away." The dragon's sword said heavily, "Frost, don't you understand? Only Master's blood essence could open the seal. If it wasn't Master, then who else could it be? Let alone 10 moves. Even if it's 100 moves or 10,000 moves, you wouldn't be able to hurt Master." The ice sword had already gone berserk. No matter what the dragon sword said, the power released from his body did not weaken at all, but instead became stronger and stronger. The surrounding ice quickly melted as well. On both sides of the walls, there were large numbers of corpses. They laid there quietly, as the ice layer was their seal, so if it melted, then the demons and devils in the first seal had survived for billions of years, and they were able to create the big Masterguard arm. When the eternal coffin fused with Long Fei's body, it was no longer able to create a great ruler's equipment for him. But these were not the key points. The key thing was that these outer space demons were still alive. Long Fei secretly tensed up and said, "Come, last move." The dragon sword said, "Boss, you can't. If we release this move, I'm afraid the power of the entire seal will crumble when that happens. These demons..." "Frost, do you understand what you're doing now? If you dare to release that power, if you hurt my lord, then you will be the center of the dragon race for all eternity. If my lord is not injured, then you can release those alien demons. Do I deserve the protection that I have been receiving for the past trillions of years?" It was loud. However, the ice sword acted as if it did not hear him. "No one can humiliate me. No one can humiliate me. No one can withstand 10 moves from me without dying. No one." Transforming into a sword, quietly guarding this place for 1,000,000,000,000 years. If a person could go crazy, the sword would naturally do the same. It had been too long. Furthermore, he was currently in a berserk state. He basically did not care what the dragon sword said, and did not care what the consequences would be. He only wanted to win over Long Fei right now. Thus, he was desperate. His strength was still increasing. The power of the 9 ice swords continuously increased. The layer of ice around them began to melt rapidly as water flowed like a small stream. As the layer of ice melted, the power of the seal weakened rapidly. Long Fei looked at his surroundings. "Still haven't seen a single golden light flash out, and they're all dead? Impossible. The first seal did not die. The demons in the seal are stronger. They can't die. These guys are definitely all boss. Is it because you haven't woken up yet?" Immediately, Long Fei looked at the ice sword and said, "This amount of power is not enough. You have to be stronger." The ice sword was enraged. His words further angered the ice sword, and even more crazily withdrew the power of the seal back into his body. Then it crazily exploded again. The dragon sword said loudly, "Boss, don't anger him anymore. If all of the seal's energy is absorbed by him, then no one can stop these evil spirits." The corner of Long Fei's mouth lifted slightly, and he thought to himself, "If these demons don't wake up, then why did I come here?" Finding the dragon sword was only one of his goals. The main reason was, he wanted a level, the level of the fiendish demons of the outer regions. because when he appeared in Shrine, he wanted to crush everything. Even if Emperor Xian stood in front of him, he could only tremble. The higher the level of the demons here, the stronger the better. Ah, ah. The ice sword was still exploding. His strength was still increasing. 3 minutes. Shu and Bai's frost sword had absorbed the power of the seal, causing the 9 swords to turn a fiery red, just like ice that was being burned by flames. An unimaginable scene. Long Fei was also secretly shocked and said, "The dragon sword is truly extraordinary. The power of this sword is really strong." Ah. Long Fei secretly clenched his fists. Boom. On the surface of his skin, the beast's scales were faintly visible. 9 sword slash. Whoosh. An ice sword suddenly flew out, aimed at Long Fei's head and slashed. Boom. Rumble. Long Fei's body heavily sank, and he was overwhelmed with shock in his heart, because what this ice sword chopped at was not his flesh, but his mind and sea of consciousness. The defense of the body of Taodi was completely useless. The revolving power of the many black holes accelerated and crazily devoured the energy that was entering Long Fei's body. Huff! Long Fei secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Luckily, there's still a guarantee. Otherwise, boom! Another slash came. Boom! Long Fei's body was like rolling thunder. Moreover, at the same time as the 9 ice swords slashed down, the layers of ice on both sides began to crack and collapse. The bodies of the Outer space demons slowly revealed themselves, just like a dried-up corpse. However, their auras were faintly wrapped around the bodies of the dead. The presence of the dead meant that they were not dead yet. He is still alive. Long Fei was a little excited in his heart. Rumble, rumble, rumble. One sword was getting stronger and stronger. The other sword was getting sharper and sharper. Long Fei almost could not take it anymore, and looked at the last gigantic flaming ice sword. The ice sword let out a roar, cut. The last sword slashed towards Long Fei. Long Fei raised both of his eyes heavily. As he finished filling his anger value, he looked at the final sword slash and said, "It has always been you who attacked. Now it's my turn." He waved his right hand. Buzz! The sky sword fell into his hands. He poured his anger value into it. Boom! In the midst of raging flames, Long Fei made a gesture and lightly struck with his sword, fall. Walala! All of his anger was poured into a single sword strike. Bam! The flaming ice sword was instantly knocked away and slammed into the ice layer. The last layer of ice on the wall was shattered, and the flames slowly extinguished. The entire ice abyss had fallen into darkness. "You lost," Long Fei said indifferently. At this moment, haha, an eerie sneer sounded. Long Fei's pupils became tight. The boss has awakened. The explosion of the ice sword absorbed all of the seal's power, allowing the entire deep abyss to quickly melt. The explosion of the ice sword absorbed all of the seal's power, allowing the entire deep abyss to quickly melt. Ice was the power of the seal. Now that the power of the seal was gone, these outer space demons were about to wake up. Moreover, the moment they woke up, their bodies would glow with a golden light, the aura of a boss. I've lost. I actually lost. Ice Sword could not understand why he lost. The Dragon Sword said, "Right now, it's not a matter of whether we lose or not. What do you think is around us? You have exhausted all of the seal's energy, and now they are about to awaken." The Ice Sword was stunned. At first, he was furious, but he didn't think too much about it. Now that he had calmed down, he saw that the layer of ice had melted into water and completely disappeared. The Ice Sword trembled as it exclaimed, "Crap, the power of the seal." The Dragon Sword said in shock, "Ice is the power of your seal? These outer space demons have not fully awakened yet. There is still time, quickly. Quick. The Dragon Sword began to panic. He had seen the brutality of outer space demons, and if all of these outer space demons woke up, the consequences would be unimaginable. Bing Jian also reacted. His aura moved. Wong. A layer of frost broke out, but His strength had already been completely used up in the 10 moves he used to attack Long Fei earlier, so there was no longer any more energy that he could use up to release the powerful frost seal. A thin layer of frost was released. He wanted to use the seal to hold the Uator Space Demon's S on both sides of the cliff. It was also at this time, a Uator Space Demons suddenly sat up, let out a heavy breath, and the thin layer of ice instantly melted. Want to use the seal again? Impossible. Waha! A sinister and cold laughter rang out. The damn seal is finally gone, ha! When the Uator Space Demons landed, he was covered in rags, and only a skeleton was left of his huge body. His entire body was shriveled up like a dried corpse. Its appearance was no different from a dried corpse. He landed heavily on the ground. The ground instantly cracked, not because of his weight, but because of some kind of destructive power that came from his body. The cracks continued to extend. In the end, the entire cave was filled with cracks, as if it would shatter with a light blow. The ice sword said heavily, "Demon, get the hell back." Boom! The power of frost heavily slashed down. The Uator Space Demon sneered and said, "With your strength." With a gentle wave of his right hand, he sent the ice sword flying. Clang! The ice sword fell to the ground and let out a painful cry. Its sound very low. He also became incomparably weak. Seeing that, the dragon sword did not fly to the side of the ice sword, but instead quickly landed beside Long Fei and said, "Boss, you go first, I will cut off the back." The ice sword struck again. This time, the Uator Space Demons didn't even look at him. With a light flick of his forefinger, a strand of power directly sent him flying out. His shriveled eyes stared coldly at Long Fei as he laughed sinisterly. "Did your blood essence unlock the seal?" Long Fei nodded and said, "That's right. What's the matter?" The dragon sword shook and said, "Boss." He felt that Long Fei should not admit to this matter. Admitting that there would definitely be danger, these Uator Space Demons' hatred towards the Long family was greater than anything else, and they definitely would not let Long Fei get away easily. The corners of the Uator Space Demons' shriveled mouth slightly hooked up and said, "Looks like you really are the master of the seal's dragon sword, and also the first dragon that can reincarnate." Crack, crack, crack. One after another, ear-piercing sounds rang, just like the sound of bones popping. Several Uator Space Demons woke up. Their eyes glowed green. All of their eyes were staring straight at Long Fei, their eyes filled with killing intent. The ice sword said weakly, Is he really master?" The dragon sword fiercely spoke. "Of course. Who else did you think it was? Otherwise, how do you think the seal can be undone? If he isn't the master, do you think he would let you attack him 10 times? You still have a life to talk here? Even the Uator Space Demons knows about this, but you don't? Sigh, are you stupid? Boss came here to bring you away from here, but you actually attacked Boss? Now it has caused such a disaster." The dragon sword looked to be disappointed. The ice sword also realized its own mistake, and said while looking at Long Fei, "Master, yes, I'm sorry, it's all my fault." Long Fei waved his hand and said, "It's fine, I don't blame you. If I were you, I would have done the same thing as well. Don't take it to heart. I'm not here for you." The ice sword did not react. The Uator Space Demons standing at the very front was startled and said, "It's not for him. Could it be that you came for us?" The moment he finished speaking, all the Uator Space Demons that had fallen behind him began to laugh. "Ha ha! Have they even reincarnated? In my opinion, you must have been reincarnated into a pig's body. Back then, we only got C-less because you couldn't kill us. We are not as strong as our commanders and can only be placed in a lower plane of existence by the seal. Don't you know how to think? Back then, if you can't kill us, can you kill us now? Ha! He's here to die. Yes. Back then you used the power of the ancient mother world to suppress us and fill up the void hole-less. But you never thought that there would be such a day, right?" While they were talking, the Uator Space Demons on the other side of the cliff also woke up. Bang, bang, bang. They all fell to the ground. They all looked at Long Fei. Long Fei also looked at them and asked, "How many bosses are there in total for the seal?" Bing Jian was startled and said, "Boss? Master, what's a boss?" The dragon sword said, "Idiot, boss is talking about the number of these demons." Bing Jian said, "Oh, a total of 19. Long Fei swept his gaze over them as he counted silently in his heart. 2 more are needed. Who's that? Long Fei looked at the Outer space demons who woke up first and said, "Go and wake up the 2 of them. After sleeping for so many years, there's no need to sleep anymore." The Outer space demons squinted his eyes and said sinisterly, "I hate it when people order me. Who do you think you are? Do you really think you're the dragon head, the guardian of the ancient world? Right now, you are nothing but a piece of trash." The voice was filled with an incomparably powerful strength. The sound wave was like a wave as it rolled out and completely crushed everything in its surroundings. The dragon sword and ice sword immediately began to tremble. The power was simply too great. Long Fei rubbed the bridge of his nose, grinned, and said, "I'll let you know who I am today. Junior brother, Mad King work." Being mocked as trash. Being mocked as trash? Hee hee. You'll know who the trash is later. As Long Fei's voice fell, 2 people stood silently behind the crowd of Outer space demons. One was the young Taoist. One of them was the wild king who was holding a devil's bat leaks, his eyes shining with excitement. At this time, these Outer space demons did not immediately discover young Taoist and Quan Wang, and were still staring at Long Fei with disdain. Those shriveled eyes were filled with contempt. "Face you in front of the seal. We won't let you have a taste of what it feels like to be trapped there. This is the mother plane of the plane. It is the best place to be our base of operations for us to reproduce. Low-level beings like you are not worthy of the resources of this world. You dog, go to hell." The corner of Long Fei's mouth quirked upwards as he gently smiled and said, "Kill." Bang, bang. 2 loud bangs. The devil's bat leaks in Quan Wang's hands smashed down heavily, instantly causing an outer space powerhouse to explode as its shriveled body split into pieces. It was also at this time, Outer space demons turned his head to look. The Savage King raised his battle axe and swept it across. "Don't say that I didn't give you a chance. Let's attack together. Scum." The Savage King was indeed savage. Young Taoist was also willing and immediately retreated to the side. He had to protect Long Fei well. The group of outer space powerhouse stared at the raging king, and one of the demons asked, "Are you from another realm as well?" "Impossible. The void hole has been blocked off, so the alien creatures cannot enter this plane." "Where did you come from?" They want to know. They had entered this world from the void hole, and only that place could enter the ancient world. Quan Wang had an irritated look on his face as he said, "F***CKU. Why do you care how lousy got here? It's time for a fight. You bunch of trash should hurry up and die." Boom! Before his voice fell, a Outer space demon sneak attacked. His 2 palms started moving, bombarding the Savage King's chest. His speed was extremely fast. The Savage King did not try to block the attack, but allowed him to strike at him with his palm. This palm strike forced him back several steps, and he felt pain in his chest. "That's all." Quan Wang patted the dust on his chest and said, "So weak." The eyes of the Outer space demons who had launched the sneak attack sunk. He charged forward once more. This time, his speed was even faster and his strength was even more vigorous. He rushed to the raging king's side and attacked with both of his palms that were like rolling thunder. But this time, the Savage King did not let him attack again. He raised his hand, and the axe fell. Bam! The sword chopped down. Their shriveled bodies instantly turned into a mess. Even their blood didn't come out. In billions of years, their bodies had already lost their blood, and they had survived by relying on the preserved profound chi. With a single blow of the axe, he had been instantly killed. The Savage King disdainfully said, "Not even worth a single blow. Is there anyone who can fight?" His gaze swept across the entire audience. He was incomparably domineering. The young Taoist disdainfully said, You only know how to posture. These fellows have been stuck in the seal for billions of years. Why are their cultivations in their weakest state? If they were at their peak, would you still be able to posture? Indeed, 1 trillion years was too long. Even when they were peak powerhouse back then, their cultivation was still weak to the extreme after such a long time had passed. Just like their bodies, they were incomparably shriveled and didn't even have blood on them. Quan Wong rubbed the bridge of his nose, expressing his displeasure. Damn, then should I let them train for a few more decades before killing them? Boss, can you not be like this? Long Fei replied. No need. These guys are all dead. Leave one half dead to me. As for the other one, I'll tell you later. Long Fei had been paying attention the entire time. Amongst these outer space powerhouses, the strongest one was none other than Yunche himself. When these outer space demons woke up, they all released the same amount of boss aura, but there wasn't much difference. On the side of the cliff, there was an unawakened magical beast. Its body glowed with a purple light. This boss was definitely the highest level monster here. Quan Wong grinned and said, understood. And then, the outer space demons were panicking. They're all from other realms. We should deal with them. Exactly. If we want to dominate this world, these people aren't worthy of having Mother Original World. Big guy, it won't do you any good to kill us. Just as the young Taoist had said, their cultivations were low to the extreme. The experts of the universal realm were fine. They didn't have to bother about him. However, they were completely no match for a monster like the Wild King, and only had the duty of being beaten. You talk too much. How irritating. The Savage King spoke a few sentences and then moved his body. Boom! His steps seemed to pass through as he instantly landed in the middle of the group of outer space demons. His eyes darkened slightly as he revealed an excited sneer. Then, the muscles on his arm suddenly exploded. The veins in his body bulged. The 10,000 demonic chi on the devil's bat leaks also ignited. Sweep the enemy. Break! Grasping the axe with one hand, he swept it out horizontally. More than a dozen outer space demons, all had their heads chopped off in an instant, and half of their bodies swayed as they stood there. They didn't even have a chance to backfire. Bang, bang, bang. One by one, they fell to the ground. Quan Wong said with disdain, How boring. There's no challenge at all. Boss, when are you going to take me to see the mother? I think that world should be interesting. Last time in God's Design Attic, he felt a few extremely powerful auras. These few days, he couldn't forget about them. He just wanted to find someone he could fight against. Long Fei said, I will bring you there. It won't be long. The Savage King said, That's good. There's no one who can fight in this world. How boring. Universal realm? Not enough for him to hit. Right now, he could not even muster up a single ounce of energy. Even if he had to face these outer space demons, it would be the same. The Ice Sword and Dragon Sword were stunned. He was scared stiff by the Savage King. Back then, their master was unable to kill these outer space demons and could only get up, but now, this big guy killed them all with an axe. This power was quite terrifying. Long Fei's eyes tensed up. He stared at the guy who was still unconscious and thought, What's the situation? Still not waking up? It was also at this time. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The ground began to shake violently. The Ice Sword immediately said, Master, the seal is about to collapse. Let's leave this place quickly. The Savage King glanced at the ice abyss and said, It is indeed about to collapse. It was also at this time. The corpses of the outer space demons on the ground shone with a translucent and sparkling light. Young Taoist was secretly surprised. Essence power? These rays of light gradually gathered onto the body of the last outer space demons. Long Fei smiled lightly and said, Didn't I say it before? Of course the big boss will go up in the end. The big boss would only appear in the end. The big boss would only appear in the end. Moreover, although this guy didn't wake up, he should have been paying close attention to every single movement here. To be exact, he was still awake. After trillions of years, they had been fatally wounded. That was energy. Even a god would not be able to withstand the seal for billions of years. Moreover, They had not reached the stage of being indestructible. He needed energy. It required a strong amount of energy to fill up his body and recover his cultivation. With the death of these outer space demons, the profound chi stored in their bodies could make up for the energy that he needed. He continued to crazily absorb the energy. In just half a minute, his body began to become full. His skin became lustrous. He opened his eyes. Buzz! A demonic light flashed in his purple eyes. In that instant, his body disappeared. He suddenly woke up and disappeared. Too fast. It was so fast that even the Wild King was stunned. Long Fei immediately shouted, "Junior brother, don't let him escape." He was still weak, and he did not want to keep fighting. As long as he was able to escape, within a month, the entire North Desert domain would be like the seas sect before, with rivers of blood everywhere. They did not care about commoners. They would kill people whenever they saw them. No matter where one went, there would not be even a blade of grass growing. Young Taoist's reaction was also extremely fast. The immortal Taoist scriptures on his body instantly exploded, forming a barrier that sealed off the exit. Boom! A powerful collision sound rang out. The immortal Taoist scriptures' defensive wall caved in slightly, and golden runes bounced the outer space powerhouse back. Boom! The outer space powerhouse landed heavily. Looking at the immortal Taoist scriptures wall blocking the exit, he asked solemnly, "Immortal Taoist scriptures? You are from the immortal world?" As soon as he finished, Long Fei was secretly shocked in his heart. Young Taoist was the same as well as he said in astonishment, "You actually know about the immortal world?" The outer space powerhouse said, knowing that the immortal world is not anything strange. The immortal world is the higher planes, it's just that I never thought that people from the immortal world would actually appear in such a lowly place. From what he knew, the ancient world was a lower plane. Young Taoist said, "That is none of your business." The outer space powerhouse said, "Everyone is from another world. To this world, we are invaders. Even though I've been trapped in the seal for billions of years, I have a huge power in this world. So if you need any help, I can help you with anything. It will be free of charge." "You bastard, you just want us to spare you." The outer space powerhouse looked at the Wild King and said, "Today, if you spare me once, in the future, I will repay you handsomely. We have a lot of power in this world. There's nothing that we cannot do." The Wild King disdainfully said, "Since you guys have a lot of energy, then you should escape now." He was crazy. A single word could kill a person. Outer space powerhouse suddenly became speechless, and he no longer looked at the Rampage King, but looked at young Taoist and said, "How is it? I can even do it if you want this world to kneel at your feet." Young Taoist replied, "Not interested. The people from your immortal world are all powerful, but we came here several billion years earlier than you. If you dare to stop me, I guarantee that you won't be able to return to the immortal world." He threatened directly. Young Taoist didn't care. He didn't know where the immortal world was. He just needed to return to Hall of Eternal Life, and he would be fine as long as he could live a long life for Dark Goddess. As for the rest, he didn't need them. He didn't mean it. However, Wild Kings were different. He could not bear to see anyone act so arrogantly in front of him, and it was a threatening arrogantly at that. It got hot. The devil's bat leaks moved and chopped with its axe. The devils roared. The devil fire turned into a slash, smashing down heavily. But that outer space powerhouse was much stronger than the Raging King had expected, and his speed was even more strange. However, this time, he did not charge towards the immortal Taoist scriptures wall. He knew he could not break it. He did not attack young Taoist, but suddenly attacked Long Fei. He had seen everything just now. Long Fei was their master, and as long as he was under their control, nothing would be a problem. The power of the young Taoist was on the immortal Taoist scriptures wall. The battle between the Raging King and his axe cleaved air apart, making it impossible for him to protect Long Fei in the short term. As for the two dragon sword-s beside Long Fei, they were simply unable to stop him. In other words, Long Fei's defense gap. No one could help him. Indeed, as he had expected, his speed instantly increased, and he instantly landed behind Long Fei. He grabbed Long Fei by the throat and said in a gloomy voice, Now that he's in my hands, you better move the immortal Taoist scriptures away." Young Taoist and Kuang Wang's gaze tensed up at the same time. His expression instantly turned serious. Never been so serious. It didn't matter if he dealt with them, but Long Fei could not afford to let anything happen to him. Kuang Wang's voice also became deathly heavy, and he said, "You better know what you're doing. I'll make you use soul flying later. Do you believe me?" Long Fei was his bottom line. He came with Long Fei on a mission. The Lord of Eternal Life Hall asked him to protect Long Fei and help Long Fei to complete his Eternal Lord's training. This training had not even begun, and Long Fei was already in trouble. Young Taoist was the same. Long Fei was his senior brother, and even more so his benefactor. The reason he was able to cultivate the complete immortal Taoist scriptures was also because of Long Fei. He would never forgive himself if anything happened to Long Fei. When the outer space demons saw their serious expressions, he knew that his bet was right. He smiled and said, "You better get out of my way. All of you are very strong. Right now, my cultivation has yet to recover. I'm unable to take care of all of you, but with my current strength, taking care of trash like him is an easy task. You don't want to see him die here, do you?" Outer space demons felt that he had grasped a trump card. Young Taoist did not think too much and immediately retracted his immortal Taoist scriptures as power. Kuang Wang also took a few steps back, but his body was still in a tight state, and all the power in his body was surging. As long as there was a chance for him to do so, he could make this outer space demons die without a burial ground. His eyes were like an eagle's. Outer space demons laughed proudly. "You said that all of you are outer space powerhouse, but all of you listened to this piece of trash's orders. It was truly embarrassing to the other realms." Long Fei said indifferently. The second time, Outer space demons was startled and asked, "What second time?" Long Fei said, "The second time I said the word trash." "Ha ha!" Outer space demons laughed out loud and said, "Are you not? Why else would you be under my control?" Useless. Before he could say the word thing, his pupils suddenly constricted. In an instant, Long Fei raised his right hand. There was a special power in his hand. Young Taoist and Kuang Wang also tensed up their eyes instantly. Power of eternity. He grabbed onto Outer space demons' hair and pulled on it fiercely, suppressing it completely, causing it to heavily flip backwards and crash into the ground. He stomped on Outer space demons' head and said loudly, "If I don't show off, do you think I'm a sick cat?" The blood on top of his head gushed out. Instant kill. The power of eternity was just this overbearing. The power of eternity was just this overbearing. As long as he could control it well, it would be equivalent to a single strike. Instant kill. Long Fei himself was stunned. The power of eternity was not activated by him. But after he was grabbed by the throat, a burst of power suddenly came out from his right hand. Then, he grabbed Outer space demons and used all of his strength. The control of the power of eternity was not good at all. Until now, although he had never stopped cultivating, his realm had always been above the threshold, unable to enter, as if he had grasped something. This was the reason why he didn't have enough experience. He had experienced it once, and had only completed one Hall of Eternal Life mission. To be able to grasp such a realm was already very impressive. F***CK. Who's the trash now? You're pinching my throat. Aren't you feeling great now? Long Fei looked at the blood on the ground. Young Taoist and Kuang Wang were dumbfounded. He was shocked by Long Fei's power of eternity. The two of them walked to Long Fei's side, looked at the Outer space demons on the ground, and the Wild King muttered, "I'm good, boss. You're too fierce, aren't you?" One-hit kill. Young Taoist asked excitedly, "Senior brother, did you manage to grasp the power of eternity?" Long Fei said, "It's still the same. I just touched the doorstep. It's just that the time is not right just now. Only the power of eternity appeared and was released. I did not expect it to be so strong. Just a tug and a fall and I will die. Is this the Uiter space demons? Too weak? Weak? Will he be weak? Kwang Wang said with a grin. His cultivation is definitely not weak. It's just that the power of eternity you have is too strong, Sai. Why didn't the eternal coffin choose me? I also want to become an eternal lord and cultivate the power of eternity. If I can cultivate, then I will definitely destroy the gods and the demons and destroy everything. The young Taoist disdainfully replied, If you were the eternal lord, I would still be the master of the immortal realm. Even if you were the eternal lord, with your brain, you would still be able to comprehend the power of eternity? Kwang Wang rolled his eyes at young Taoist and angrily shouted, Tisk, young Taoist said, cut my ass. Am I not? The savage king fell silent. Indeed, he did not like to think too much. If he needed to use his brain to comprehend some profound martial arts, he would rather not practice it. It would be too much of a waste of his time. Power of eternity. The power of the only eternal coffin in the universe. This kind of power required not only training, but also comprehension. Long Fei didn't know why either. He did not practice power of eternity, but in the process of using it, he felt that he had comprehended quite a few of them. He felt as if there was someone helping him cultivate. This kind of feeling was extremely strange. It had never appeared before, only in these few days. It was as if there was someone helping him comprehend and cultivate. With his memories sealed by the seal, he did not know what had happened in the past. However, Long Fei also definitely would not think that there was someone who would help him cultivate. Maybe it's because my inherent skill is too good. System Girl helped me level up all my body parts, including my various inherent skills. He could only be narcissistic. While the young Taoist and the Raging King were bickering, the system had also sounded out in Long Fei's mind. Ding! System notification. Congratulations to player Long Fei for killing Captain of Uiter Space Demons. Do you wish to absorb it? Ding! Congratulations to player Long Fei for obtaining Purple Abyss. The system rang out twice, and other than the kill notification, there was only one other item that dropped. Holy sh**t. Long Fei looked at the thing that exploded and immediately cursed. This F***king blew up his purple eyes. Isn't this a bit too disgusting? The Purple Abyss was the eyeball of that demon from a moment ago. But the Purple Abyss looked like a world of purple devilish chi. It looked slightly horrifying. Long Fei was too lazy to check the stats. He directly threw them into the space ring and thought, should I ingest them? He looked at the Savage King and asked, You said earlier that his cultivation level isn't low. What about compared to yours? Kwang Wang stopped his bickering with young Taoist and said, Of course he's far worse than me. With trash like him, I can beat 10 people with one hand. Young Taoist said, You can only brag 10 times. If you really are that powerful, then how did your move just now be dodged? Moreover, you used your speed to dodge it. Kwang Wang said, That was due to negligence, and I only used a single layer of my strength. Didn't you see that the cave was about to collapse? If I were to go all out, we would all be buried alive here. Young Taoist said, Find excuses for yourself. Want to take them? Long Fei was still depressed in his heart. He wanted to rise to the skies in a single step or not consume it. Then, he looked at the dragon sword and asked, How many places are left? The dragon sword said, Deducting the God's Tribe Palace area, there are still 7 other locations. Long Fei asked, What's the situation with the other 7 locations? Are all of them stronger than these guys? The dragon sword said, I'm not sure, but it should be about the same. Bing Jian said, Master, do you want to raise all 9 swords? Long Fei nodded his head, but at the same time, he made up his mind. I'll think about it after I absorb it. If his level were to reach the pinnacle, it would also mean that he needed to hunt for an even stronger powerhouse in order to level up. This way, leveling up would be too difficult. If he would want to level up in the future, he would have to go hunting for the Uiter space demons. This was what made him most hesitant. Capture was about to give the order, but in the end his heart sank. Give up. Ding. System notification. Player has canceled the ingestion. Huff. Long Fei let out a long sigh. How did I become so worried about my personal gains and losses? My personality should always be resolute and decisive, right? What happened to me these past few days? How strange. Even his personality has changed. Long Fei didn't know what was going on. Someone had helped him to comprehend the power of eternity, but now even his personality had changed. However, it was also good for him to give up on ingestion. With the two great outer space powerhouses, Raging King and Young Taoist by his side, leveling shouldn't be a big problem. Long Fei walked out of the seal. Young Taoist asked, "Senior brother, where do we go now?" Kuang Wang said, "Didn't you want to go and take over the God's tribe? When are we going?" Long Fei smiled faintly, looked into the distance, and said, "Don't worry, God's tribe can go to the next realm first." In another place, on the east side of God's tribe palace, there was a huge lake surface that rippled with microwave energy and was suffused with a crystal-clear light. It was wide and boundless, and from afar, it looked like a heavenly river. This is the Wash Sky Pool. The scenery here was pleasing to the eye, like a fairyland, but this was actually the place where the universal realm was suppressed into the myriad realms. At this moment, the four great elders of God's tribe stood in four directions. Not far away, the great clan elder of the God's tribe gathered around as he shouted, "Raise the dragon ancestor." Rising dragon ancestor. Rising dragon ancestor. As soon as his voice fell, all four elders who were standing in four different directions of the Wash Sky Pool sat cross-legged at the same time. The Wash Sky Pool quickly made a change. The calm heavenly lake suddenly became turbulent. Shrine trembled slightly. Many descendant of God's tribes and clan elders flew out of their manners and watched from afar. They were all there when the 13 dragon ancestors were suppressed by the Wash Sky Pool. This was to ensure the stability of the four seas and the wastelands under the universal realm and the safe development of those planes. Using dragon ancestor to guard, this was the strongest defensive power. Now that the dragon ancestor was summoned, who would be the guardian of this plane? This was something that the presbyter of God's tribe had never thought about before, and they did not need to think about it, because the current God's tribe had completely ruled this world. No one could contend against him. It would be fine even without any guards. No one was an opponent of the God's tribe. Right now, what he needed to do was to lure Long Fei out and kill him. This way, no one in the universal realm could fight with him anymore. Roar, a roar. With a flip of its black dragon tail, the waves within the seraphic pond rolled dozens of feet high. Next, the dragon head slowly emerged from the depths. Its two black eyes were like searchlights as they emitted a bright light the moment they came out of the water. His eyes were filled with rage. However, in that instant, his eyes became lifeless, like a puppet that had been manipulated by someone. The dragon's face was ferocious. His entire body was suffused with the aura of a king, the kind of dragon that was born with the power to crush all living beings. However, the black dragon's water surface was like a wooden sculpture. It couldn't even be considered a dead dragon. At least the dead dragon still had a powerful aura, but the black dragon didn't have any. The black dragon ancestor was the most savage of the dragon ancestors. Right now, there was no such thing as savage on his body. It was as if he was a docile rabbit. This was probably the most humiliating moment of his life. "Rise!" the four elders shouted. Power surged. The black dragon rose into the air. It did not speak, nor could it speak, much less resist. Their dragon souls were firmly crushed by the powerhouse of God's tribe. He couldn't move at all. Once, the black dragon broke through the pressure, but it was also after that time that the Emperor Xian increased his strength. The black dragon writhed in the sky for a moment, then silently hovered in the air. If the four elders didn't tell him to move, he wouldn't move. Seeing this, many people from God's tribe laughed. This is the so-called dragon? It was once the #1 clan in ancient world, but now that it is better, does it still have the slightest bit of dragon power? What does a dragon count for? Our God's tribe is the king, the ruler of this world. What dragon? It looks like a worm. Worms. Right now, they're the guard dogs of the gods' tribe. We can bite whoever we tell them to, but if we want it to bark like a dog, it has to bark like a dog. Grand Elder, let him learn to bark like a dog. Ha ha! The people of God's tribe laughed loudly. The once number one being of ancient world, the number one clan, what did it become now? Being stepped on by their God tribes. They could not even move a single inch. The great elder smiled and said, "The dragon race is high and mighty, but in the eyes of our God's tribe, no matter how high they are, they will still be trampled by us." For great elder Tian Chi, can you make it bark like a dog? The four elders said, "They are just puppets in our hands. They have to do whatever they want to do. Not to mention just barking like dogs, they can even eat dog shit." Ha ha! The great clan elder laughed loudly and said, "There aren't any dog poop God's tribe either. Let him learn to bark like a dog, and let our God's tribe's people see for themselves what he looks like when he barks like a dragon and dog." Ha! Ha! Countless God's tribe started laughing. Learn to bark? This was a humiliation to a dragon. No dragon would do it, even if it died. However, right now, they were completely under Ning's control. They couldn't control themselves at all. The four elders began to move, as one of them said in a low voice, "Learn to bark at me like a dog." The black dragon struggled for a moment. Although he was under control, he still subconsciously resisted. The elder's face sank. He did not want to lose face in front of the great clan elder. This was his chance to show off. Glaring angrily, he flipped his right hand and took out a dark green magic strap. The venom on the magic strap was dripping. The whip swayed. A whip viciously lashed out. "Didn't you hear what I said?" "Pa!" With an explosive sound, several hundred pieces of dragon scales flew out. The wound underneath the whip began to burn crazily, as if it was coated with sulfuric acid. It seemed as if it were in incomparable pain. However, the people from the God's tribe wanted to laugh out loud. Ha ha! This whip will definitely feel extremely good. Ha ha! Dragon? He's even inferior to a slave. This is the strongest being on the surface? The most powerful trash, right? Ha ha! He laughed maniacally. At the same time, the black dragon slowly opened its mouth. Everyone quieted down. The black dragon's throat let out a cry. Woof! As soon as his voice faded, the entire audience was boiling over as they laughed in an incomparably joyous manner. Did you hear that? Dragon-like dog barks, ha ha, ha ha. I'm dying of laughter, and I even learned it so much. It seems like it really is a dog. Ha ha. He's probably the first person in the history of the dragon clan to learn to bark like a dog. Dragons learn to bark like dogs, ha. He mocked crazily. The black dragon's pupils were trembling, and its body was trembling. The energy within its body was frantically attacking him. He heard countless sounds of ridicule and knew what he had just done. He was doing his best. He was exerting strength like crazy. However, this time, he was unable to break through the seal. The great clan elder stroked his beard and smiled in satisfaction. Dragon clan? Oomph. From today onwards, I will only be trampled to death by the God's tribe. Just that brat long, Fei. I want to see how long you can stay alive for. When the time comes, I want you to kneel in front of me and bark like a dog. Ha ha! Ha ha! The great elder laughed and replied, "Continue." The four elders of the Heaven Lake sect slightly moved as their power once again surged into the Heaven Lake. Walala! The poison dragon appeared. Just like the black dragon, he too was stupefied. He didn't have the domineering aura of a dragon, let alone the might of a dragon. Just like a large bug. Walala! The azure dragon's appearance was the same. There was no way to resist. He also wanted to break through the suppression of the seal, but he couldn't. One by one, the 13 dragon patriarchs emerged from the heavenly lake and floated in the air side by side. From afar, they looked extremely domineering and valiant. However, if one looked closely, they would see that they weren't dragons at all. Aside from their dragon bodies, they didn't resemble dragons in the slightest. The pressure from God's tribe was unstoppable. The great elder smiled and said, 13 dragon patriarchs are like 13 pieces of trash. Ha ha! The entrance to the shrine was also known as the Gate of Heaven. The entrance to the shrine was also known as the Gate of Heaven. God's tribe viewed this place as the domain of the heavens. Everyone in the shrine possessed God's tribe blood vein, or people who had outstanding contributions to the God's tribe. Furthermore, the monsters that came from the ancient world also temporarily stayed in the shrine. The movements of the wash sky pool were so great, they had naturally been alerted as well. It was just that, when they saw the 13 dragon heads, they lost all interest. It didn't have the slightest bit of dragon aura. It wasn't called a dragon, but a large worm. Furthermore, it was a soft worm that didn't have any offensive properties. However, they could tell that the former overlord of the ancient world, the former number one race, he was once ancient world's number one expert. Now, nothing. He had already fallen into the realm of trash. That was something even a human could step on. If it was the dragon clan from the past, who would dare to do such a thing? Not to mention barking like a dog. Even such insulting words would probably cause his death. A few of the ancient world's monsters sneered. Dragon race. I'm afraid their clan will be exterminated. The 13 dragon ancestors all came out from the wash sky pool. Elder Tian Chi walked in front of the Great Elder and said respectfully, "Great Elder, do you want to ride it and play with it?" Riding the dragon. This was probably the dream of anyone with a martial arts training. Dragons were the strongest creatures in the world. If they could ride on his head and roam around, it would truly be a great experience. Immediately, the Great Elder's eyes lit up. Then we'll ride it and play around. Let's see what's so special about this dragon. Elder Tian Chi immediately took out a poison magic strap and handed it over with both hands, saying, "If it dares to disobey, then beat it fiercely. Every time it lashes them, the crushed seal in their bodies will become tighter, and the pain in their bodies will become a little more painful." The Great Elder took the poison whip and rose into the air, instantly landing on the head of the green dragon. He sneered, "Let me test the effect of this whip first." Flashing through the air, Zhang Xian lashed out fiercely. "Pah!" With an explosive sound, thousands of green dragon scales flew out, and the venom fell on the wounds. The flesh on the wounds were all twitching. The wound was several meters deep. Dragon blood gushed out. The green dragon's pupils rapidly contracted as his body began to tremble. The head elder sneered and said, "Stand firm." As soon as he finished, he moved again with all his strength and swung out with the whip. Dragon scales splattered everywhere, and the skin was lacerated. Even with an incomparably large body, one could still see white bones from the whip, and the venom seeped into the wounds, causing the flesh and blood on both sides of the wounds to twitch. It hurt. However, this time, the green dragon's body did not move, and it did not tremble. The Great Elder laughed complacently. "You're really obedient, even more obedient than dogs." Ha ha ha. The entire arena was once again filled with mockery. The Great Elder said, "Come up and play. If you don't ride now, you won't be able to ride again in a few days." Obviously, the Great Clan Elder did not want these dragon ancestors to return to the ranks of the Wash Sky Pool. He wanted to lure Long Fei over. Long Fei was dead. Then there would be no one else who could compete with God's tribe, and Emperor Xian would no longer have to raise these watchdogs. Immediately, a dozen or so elders, each holding a poisonous magic strap, flew into the air. Before doing anything else, he whipped himself fiercely a few times. To them, it was simply an addiction. Beating a dragon? This was something that he had never dared to even think about before. Now that the life of the dragon ancestor was in their hands, what kind of power was this? Walala! The 13 venomous magic strap rose up and began to smoke them at the same time. The head elder said with a heavy voice, "To the gates to the heavens." The 13 dragon ancestors flipped and flew towards the entrance of the Qingyun realm. Boom! Boom! Thunder rumbled. The entire sky was covered by the 13 dragon ancestors. Their bodies were incomparably huge. Their speed was extremely fast. However, these presbyter of God's tribe deliberately slowed down their speed, and when they flew out of the heaven realm, the great elder intentionally shouted, "Let out a dragon's roar! Faster!" Ha! The great elder lashed out with his whip. The green dragon let out a roar. Roar! It was also at this time. The other 12 dragon patriarchs also let out a dragon's roar. In that instant, the entire universal realm was trembling. The roar of a dragon wreaked havoc, transmitting to trillions of kilometers. What is that sound? Dragon's roar? Is the dragon race in the universal realm? Wasn't the dragon race suppressed by the gods' tribe? Why is there a dragon's roar? Many people were doubtful. At the same time, many people rushed to the mountain. This was the place where mortals made their pilgrimage to the celestial domain. The people in the distance didn't know what was going on, but the people at the foot of the mountain were all incomparably clear on what was going on. Each and every one of their gazes were lifeless, yet at the same time filled with excitement. Yes, it's a dragon. It's a dragon. Wow, so many divine dragons. The dragon came out of shrine like this. Look, the presbyter of God's tribe is standing on top of the dragon's head. They are riding on their dragon heads. The mighty God's tribe. Countless people began to kowtow, kneel on the ground. The great elder smiled and said, "Hang it up." An elder flew out and lashed out with his whip, striking one of the golden dragons. With a loud thud, he saw the dragon nail in the distance. "Hit yourself, head up, tail down." The golden dragon did not resist. It collided head-on with the incomparably thick nail. Bam! Crack! After inserting his head into the nail, his body sank down. His body, which was tens of thousands of meters long, instantly shook as the hammer descended. Fresh blood gushed out from the wound. It continuously flowed down along the draconic scales. This scene stunned everyone present. Staring at the enormous golden dragon, they were all stupefied. Next, Dragon Ancestor slammed into the nail, and his body fell to the ground. He hung himself at the gates of the heavens. 13. It looked like 13 huge pillars. That scene, it was hard to imagine. Even the people on top of the mountain were trembling. The scene was too soul-stirring. And just like that, the Dragon Ancestor was crushed by the people of the God's tribe, becoming like this. Is this still a dragon? Was this still the dragon race that was so high up in the sky? The God's tribe is the king. God's tribe is king. God's tribe is awesome. More people kneeled down and kowtowed. The great elder did not even look at them. In his eyes, these were just mortals' ants. His voice sank as he said, "Listen carefully. Tell that little bastard Longfei that if you want these dragon ancestral beings to live, then come and die quickly. Also, tell Xiaoyao City's Murong Xiong, God's tribe will eliminate him." Ha ha! As soon as he finished, the great clan elder walked into the shrine. The wild laughter spread for tens of thousands of miles. 13 dragon patriarchs hung at the gates of heaven. They were like dead eels. At this time, with the death of the dragon ancestor, the news of the God's tribe releasing such a message crazily spread throughout the universal realm. A dragon that was tens of thousands of meters long. How enormous was its body? A dragon that was tens of thousands of meters long. How enormous was its body? As the wound left, blood gushed out like crazy and flowed down along the dragon scale like a small stream. In less than a day, 13 dragon pools had appeared under the bodies of the 13 dragons. Dragon blood was a great tonic. It contained a great amount of profound chi and a great amount of energy. But no one dared to come close, and no one dared to use dragon blood to temper their body. It was not because they were afraid of the dragon race, but because they were afraid of the God's tribe. The God's tribe could make the dragon ancestor into such a miserable state. Who would dare to make a move? A few days, 13 dragon patriarchs had more or less blood flowing out of their bodies. Their bodies had also shriveled up quite a bit, and all of them looked as if they were about to shed their skin. He was on the verge of death and did not have any spirit. Xiaoyao City. Murong Xiong suddenly stood up. How could that be? This group of God's tribe's grandchildren is too much. Even Emperor Xian would not dare to do so. His eyes were filled with killing intent. The flames of fury burned. Xiaobai said, Those dragon ancestors had all gone through life and death situations together with Boss. Boss treated them like brothers, but now they are hanging in front of the gates of heaven. This god's tribe dog is really too much of a bully. Ice and fire were dragons as well. However, his blood vein was not that pure. All these years, he had wanted to cultivate to have a huge body like a divine dragon, without wings. However, he discovered that no matter how much he cultivated, he couldn't be like the dragon ancestor. Now, when he heard that the dragon ancestor was hung at the heaven gate, he was the most furious. If Long Wushan had not given the dragon ancestor to the god's tribe, the 13th dragon ancestor would not be like this. Long Wushan, this thing that doesn't have any backbone, being treated like a dog by the god's tribe. How can you still laugh? Queen of Blood Moon said, I don't know if Long Fei knows about this matter, but if he knew, he would have definitely rushed to the heavenly region at the first possible moment. Obviously, the reason the god's tribe hung the 13th dragon ancestor up was to lure Long Fei over. They must have set up an inescapable trap. Lan Mei said, This is a trap. Long Fei cannot go. Everyone knew that this was a trap set up by the god's tribe. However, they were well aware of Long Fei's personality. If he knew that the dragon ancestor had been arranged like this, he would definitely attack the god's tribe without a care. Elder Swordsman said, We all know his character. If he really wants to know, I'm afraid he would go crazy. Murong Xiong was slightly anxious. Then what do we do? Powerhouse S in the Heaven Realm are not something these Universal Realm S can compare to. Although God's Tribe S are very arrogant, they are indeed very strong. And not only the powerhouse of God's Tribe, I heard that the monsters that came from the ancient world are temporarily staying in the shrine. If they knew that he was the reincarnation of the first dragon, they would definitely not let Long Fei get away with it. He's in the Emperor's Xian. If he makes a move. Murong Xiong did not finish his words. He had seen the Emperor's Xian once, and it was in the ancient world. After that, a shadow was left in his heart. Even if he managed to cultivate the power of spatial inheritance to the peak realm and control the profound truths of space and time, but in the hands of the Emperor Xian, he could not block one move, because the Emperor Xian was too strong. That kind of power could make anyone tremble. Once Emperor Xian makes a move, Long Fei will definitely die. Everyone's eyes darkened. Xiao Bai slightly said, Not necessarily. Everyone looked at him. Xiao Bai said, Boss' memory has been blocked by the seal. He doesn't remember all the things that happened in the past. The 13th dragon ancestor must also be the same. So, even if he knew that 13th dragon ancestor was dying on the heaven gate, he would not rush there. The Queen of Blood Moon said, Xiao Bai is right. His memories are indeed sealed by the seal. Many people do not recognize him and do not know about the things that happened in the past. Murong Xiong heaved a sigh of relief. That's good. Lan Mei said, His memories were sealed by the seal, but in the entire universal realm, only he's called Long Fei. All the people with the dragon surname were killed by the monsters in the ancient world. Only he's called Long Fei. If he heard the words of the great clan elder of God's tribe, he would also immediately rush over. And he knows that his memories are sealed by the seal, but he is clear on one point. He knows that he is of the dragon race, and upon knowing that his clansmen are hung at the gates of heaven, how can he endure his anger? He'll definitely go. Everyone's hearts sank again. The heaven's gate must be an inescapable trap waiting for Long Fei to appear. This was certain death. Xiao Bai looked at Murong Xiong and said, City Lord Mu, can you first find Boss with your spatial profound mysteries? Murong Xiong shook his head and said, I have not cultivated my spatial energy to the extent where I can track people. If only my father was here. Xiao Bai said, Since we can't find Boss, then we have to do something. Tendapeo could not hold back and said, If I were to say it, it would directly be one word, fuck. I don't believe that his God's tribe is that strong. Jian Feng said, I agree. Let's rush to the gate of heaven first and see if we can do something first. We really don't like being a cowardly turtle. I agree. Go to the heaven gate. Go. I don't care about what boss says. Let's go now. Long Fei had instructed them not to move from Xiaoyao City. However, now that they couldn't find Long Fei, they were incomparably anxious. No matter what, he had to do something. It's not their style to sit back and wait. A swamp somewhere. When Long Fei walked out of the seal, another dragon sword floated beside him. It was the same as in North Desert Domain. He had still yet to absorb the rank of Uiter space demons, and was still at the soldier level. Huff! Long Fei exhaled a long breath, not because he did not have an acquisition level, but because he felt more and more that there was someone else living in his mind these past few days. From time to time, another scene appeared. He couldn't control it all. His judgment, his thoughts, and his personality had all changed. This change was completely beyond his control. Young Taoist walked to Long Fei's side and asked, "Senior brother, what are you thinking about?" Long Fei withdrew his train of thought and asked, "Junior brother, you have reincarnated a few times, and you should have experienced more than me. Have you ever experienced this kind of situation where you feel as if you have always been someone else? Meaning, thinking and also having a cultivation realm of his own, but he can influence himself." The Wild King was immediately stunned when he heard it, and immediately looked elsewhere to avoid Long Fei's gaze. Young Taoist seriously replied, "No, if it's an avatar, then it should have the same thoughts as the main body. The main body should be able to control the avatar. Senior brother, there's something wrong with you during this period of time. Is there something wrong?" Long Fei smiled and said no. However, he secretly tightened his heart. Damn, could it be that I'm having a nervous breakdown? A lot of things always had a different way of thinking. These few days, Long Fei was really troubled and felt like his brain was about to collapse. A lot of things always had a different way of thinking. These few days, Long Fei was really troubled and felt like his brain was about to collapse. He didn't know why. He also could not recall what happened in the past. If he recovered his memory, then he would definitely know that he still had a clone. He had been in closed-door cultivation, training, so it could be said that no one knew of his existence. His existence was just a constant series of breakthroughs, and breakthroughs. He did not care about anything that happened in the world. He knew that if he wanted to stand at the highest point in this world, he had to become the strongest person in this world. As for him, it was for this purpose. Somewhere, he stood on top of a mountain peak and looked at a city not too far away. He said in a slightly depressed tone, "I don't know how many years have passed, but why is it that I keep on releasing my senses? Why is it that real face can't feel my presence? Could it be that my real face has already..." Who was the man? Long Fei. The other Long Fei. He knew exactly what had happened. He knew the system. He also knew who his clone was. Impossible. Long Fei shook her head slightly. If he had died, I would have sensed his presence a long time ago. Then why didn't Real Face reply? These few days, he was like a text message to his phone, constantly sending messages to the Real Face, waiting for a reply. No, it was as if he had been forgotten. He could clearly feel the existence of the Real Face, but he did not reply in the slightest. For this, he had to leave the mountain. Since sending a message was useless, then go find the Real Face. Standing at the peak of the mountain, he couldn't help but sigh as he looked at the world. Time passes, world after world. When I ascended from a small world to here, this world will soon become a thing of the past. Thinking of this, the space between his eyebrows tightened. Could Real Face still be in the small world? Sigh. Forget it. Let's take a look at this world first. After coming to Universal Realm for so many years, I still haven't had a chance to experience this world's local customs and practices, so I'll take a look first. He took a step forward. Boom. His feet shone, and he began to laugh. At the foot of the mountain, a child pointed at the sky and said, "Mother, quickly, look. There are deities in the sky." The middle-aged woman beside the child did not raise her head. Tears trickled down her cheeks. "Little Hai, you're already so silly. Where did the deities from in this world come from?" The child anxiously said, "Mother, it really isn't immortal. I just saw him flying in the sky." The middle-aged woman hugged the child tightly and said, It is Mother's fault. Mother has let you down. I did not take care of you properly and caused you to become like this. Lil Hai, you have to remember, when you have people around you, don't say these idiotic words. There are no immortals in this world, and what you see is just an illusion. All right, it's getting late. Let's go pick some feces. The middle-aged woman held a *T ladle in her hand, while carrying 2 buckets of dung on her shoulder. She was leading a silly-looking child in an apron towards the owner's house. 1,000 miles in a single thought. Even faster. He raised his foot 1 second and appeared in front of the city gate the next. Long Fei raised his head and looked at the city gate. Holy King City. Saint Ruler? This name, that's a bit too much, isn't it? The Holy King City was a major city in the western peak of the 9 regions of the Universal Realm, which was also where the Holy King sect was located. The city was bustling with activity. The streets were crowded with people, and there was a huge traffic flow. The city gate could not be seen even after one was in the city. The tea houses and restaurants on both sides of the street were packed with people. The most important part was the center of the street, which was also the central plaza. There was a building that was as large as a pagoda, and it was the landmark of the city. The building opened 4 doors. The black tortoise was the weapon, the azure dragon was the core, the vermilion bird was the array, and the white tiger was the beast. He was the window the Holy King sect set up in the city. It was also known as the Golden Absorbing Cave. The easiest way for a sect to obtain funds was to set up a shop to sell medicines and weapons. Holy King sect had an extremely high status in the West Peak region and was a sect that was considered an overlord. The West Peak region also had powerhouse of the sovereign realm. It was also because of this that the Saint Ruler's domain had never been shaken even after 10,000 years. Of course, it had to do with his choice. Very early on, the Saint Ruler's domain stood on the same side as the God's tribe. Now that the God's tribe was in control of the world, the influence of the Saint Ruler's realm had increased by a lot. Is it about to start? There's still 3 minutes. Still not here. I'm dying of anxiety. What's the hurry? Good stuff. It's worth waiting for more time. That's right. I heard that the pellet this time was made by Taoist Master Lu himself. A pellet could stay in your body for 3 years, and you don't need to remove any pellets to replenish your spirit energy during that time. So, this kind of pellet is simply a holy ply. To those who go into seclusion, he is even better than divine rank. Taoist Master Lu is not an ordinary alchemist. I heard that he's going to be selected to enter the shrine. At that time, his pills will not be something that we can easily buy. Then I'll have to hide it. Who knows? It might become an antique in the future. Forget about pills. This time, the new weapons are also very powerful. I heard that the materials were all taken for shrine. That's right. I've heard of it too. Whether it's a weapon or pills, as long as it's a product from the Holy King sect, it's definitely top-notch. Haha, that's right. The Saint Ruler Pavilion was the name of the building in the center. The 4 gates faced 4 different directions, also towards the 4 city gates. Now, each door was crammed with people, lined up in long queues, all the way to the city gate. The situation was very serious. Long Fei stood in the middle of the crowd, looked at the people around him and muttered, "What level are the pills in this world at? Let me see what the pills in this world are like." And then, Long Fei was also in line. However, his heart blinked a little in the line. He acted like he didn't belong in the mortal world, and many people noticed him. A beautiful woman approached him with a gentle voice and a misty look in her eyes. She smiled faintly and asked, "Young master, do you want to buy pills?" "Go away. I saw him first." A young woman with pretty good looks walked over to Long Fei's side and said, "Young noble, my father is a guard of the Saint Ruler Pavilion. If you wish to purchase pills, I can let you buy them in advance. With my dad's status, I can still get a discount, After which, he chuckled softly. "He's mine, I saw him first. Young master, my brother is an outer disciple of the Holy King sect. I have the Holy King sect's medicinal pellets on me right now. Young master, our family has a lot of Holy King sect's pills. They're hidden on my bed. Do you want to come with me to get them?" Every one of their little expressions was filled with hunger and thirst, as if they wanted to swallow Long Fei whole. S body had a unique charisma. This charisma was especially aimed at females. It was as though the air was filled with aphrodisiac fans, causing all females to go crazy from it. S body had unique charisma. This charisma was especially aimed at females. It was as though the air was filled with aphrodisiac fans, causing all females to go crazy from it. Of course, crazy about him alone. The real face had this unique charm, one that they could share with others. To his clone, he was also Long Fei himself. Right now, not only did he exude this charm that was absolutely attractive to beautiful girls, but he was also dressed in white. His elegant demeanor made the surrounding young ladies go crazy. All of them wanted to jump into Long Fei's embrace. They all flattered him. Even someone began to bid. "Little big brother, accompany me for a night. I'll buy whatever you want. Little big brother, I'll pay 30 million Grand Miss crystals to buy you a night. Young master, my family's young miss has said that if you can marry my family's young miss, half of the Chun family's assets will go to you." All of them were extremely generous. Many girls surrounded Long Fei, swallowing saliva and looking extremely hungry and thirsty, as if they had reached the age of tigers and wolves. However, they were clearly around 20 years old, which was out of proportion to their behavior. "So handsome. He's too handsome." The longer they watched, the more they could not extricate themselves. Many of the young ladies screamed, and the situation was on the verge of going out of control. However, no matter how much the situation went out of control, no one was able to get close to Long Fei. From start to finish, he stood there quietly, as if he did not even exist in his eyes. Because there were many beautiful ladies around, but there was nothing that caught his eyes. Even though he was just a clone, he had quite a lot of real faces memories, and any one of those women in his memories were already way ahead of them. "Who is that? Holy *T. Are you that handsome? Other than being a bit more handsome than me, which one of them is stronger?" "Exactly. He looks like a flashy playboy. In this world, cultivation is what is important. If you look good, then you can eat." TSK. A bunch of superficial women. Many of the men in the team disdained him. At this time, from the side of the street, for people came out as if they were 2 or 8,000. They pushed the people on the street to the side and said with a heavy voice, "All of you, scram for me. Young Master Sima has arrived." As soon as he finished, the crowd quickly retreated, opening up a path. One of them wore a purple crown and wore a white robe. He held a paper fan in his hand and waved it gently. A faint smile of a gentleman hung on his face. He was quite handsome. He was the #1 hedonist in the Holy King City, as well as the #1 handsome young master. Every time he appeared, it would cause a huge commotion. Plus, he was the eldest young master of the Sima family, which was even more different. It had to be known that the Sima family was the #1 family in Holy King City. Even in the Holy King sect, there were strong powers. Half of the family held important positions in the Holy King sect, and with the Holy King sect as their backing, the Sima family was even more so the absolute overlord of the Holy King City. The surroundings quieted down. They all made way, afraid of offending Holy King City's #1 silk pants. When Sima Tian walked out, he slightly closed his eyes and spread open both of his arms. 1 second, 2 seconds, 5 seconds passed. Sima Tian was a little taken aback. In the past, whenever he appeared on the streets, it would definitely cause the girl to scream. He really enjoyed this kind of process, but today was a little different. No screams. "How strange," Sima Tian gently coughed. One of them raised his body a lot and shouted, "Young Master Sima has arrived." The sound was so loud that the entire street could hear it. Sima Tian gently waved his fan, revealing a humble and noble look. He raised his head 45 degrees and looked like he was pretending to be deep. In his heart, he thought again, "Scream." 1 second, 2 seconds, 10 seconds passed. Other than silence, there were no screams. Sima Tian had an awkward expression as he thought to himself, Are there no women on the streets today? At this time, one of the lackeys said, Young master, look over there. Sima looked over and saw that the girls on the streets were all gathered around a man dressed in white, and there was no lack of young ladies from other families. These women could be considered as first-class beauties in the holy king city. But seeing this situation, his eyebrows immediately tightened, and he became displeased. Then, who is this kid? That lackey Luo understood Sima Tion's personality very well. If he was robbed of his limelight, he would definitely be displeased. Luo Feng immediately said, Young master, I'll go take a look. With that said, he walked towards Long Fei in large strides. Get out of my way. Luo Feng let out a heavy shout. When the girls saw Luo Yuan, they immediately lowered their heads and moved to the side. But Luo squeezed through the crowd. When he saw Long Fei, he immediately let out an arrogant cry and shouted, Kid, who are you? Long Fei ignored him. Xiao Luo felt that Long Fei was not giving him face, and this made him very unhappy. His triangular eyes turned sinister. God damn, I'm talking to you, are you deaf? Long Fei still did not acknowledge him. Just like the other women around them, he treated them as nothing. Luo was even more unhappy. This time, he did not say anything and stepped forward as he ruthlessly kicked Long Fei. His cultivation was not low, royal realm. It was also because he had such a high cultivation that Holy King City was afraid of him. The reason why he used this kick was because he wanted Long Fei to lie on the ground and even kill him with one kick. This way, he would definitely be rewarded. With a cold smile on his face, he thought about Sima Tion's reward. However, something was wrong this time. This kick of his felt like he had kicked a steel plate. Crack! The sound of bones breaking sounded. Luo Yuan's face was twisting as if he was slowing down. He opened his mouth to scream out in pain, but in that instant, the ground where his kick landed felt a force pull at him, causing his foot to jerk inward. Pah! Crack! His crotch had ruptured, and the two deadly eggy beneath him seemed to have split open. He just sat on the ground. The sound of bones breaking was about to come out, but this time, an even more painful sound came out, and his eyeballs were about to pop out. But he didn't even wait for him to call out. Bam! A wave of energy suddenly shook. Strangely enough, there were a lot of young girls blocking his path to him. However, the moment he shot out of the way, these young girls all automatically stepped back, opening up a path for him. They didn't know why, but it was as if they couldn't control themselves. His body was the same. Bam! A loud sound was heard. The lackey fell into a coma. Even if he didn't die, he would at least be crippled. From start to finish, Long Fei did not move a single bit, and did not even glance at the lackey. What powerful control! His control over his strength to an unimaginably strong realm. On top of the Saint Ruler Pavilion, an old man stared at Long Fei. If one does not move, one would be able to control their strength to the limit. This kind of person can only be described with one word. The old man's deep gaze was locked on a Long Fei the entire time. If one does not move, one would be able to control their strength to the limit. This kind of person can only be described with one word. The old man's deep gaze was locked on a Long Fei the entire time. It was as if he wanted to see through Long Fei. However, no matter how sharp his eyes were, it was useless. In the end, he could not see anything special about Long Fei's body, nor could he sense anything from Long Fei's aura. However, this did not hinder Long Fei's position in his heart. What word? One of the 4 young disciples standing behind him couldn't help but ask. The old man came back to his senses and said lightly, terrifying. With that one word, the other elder's eyes were filled with disdain as he said, I don't think that's necessarily the case. I don't think that kid is that good. Not only does he not understand strength, he doesn't understand the situation either. Offending the Sima family in the Holy King City is not that powerful. It's that stupid. Just watch and see. He's going to have bad luck soon. One of the elders sneered coldly, his expression full of ridicule. In his eyes, Long Fei was someone who was about to die, that was all. Who would dare to offend the Sima clan of the Holy King City? Elder Lu, his strength control, the original elder, not waiting for him to finish. Elder Lu took a step forward as he looked at another direction, interrupting, "Just watch and see. He's about to suffer." On the street, Sima Tian's expression turned sinister, anger written all over his face. He stared straight at Long Fei, then walked towards him step by step, and coldly said, "You dare to touch my Sima clan's people in Holy King City? That's right. That's right. Very good. All these years, I haven't seen anyone who doesn't have good eyesight. Today, I've finally met one." Crash! Yi Zichen closed the fan. It fell into his hand and disappeared in an instant. It was also at this moment. Buzz! The supreme force burst out and his robe began to flutter. With a loud cracking sound, he took a step forward and a gust of wind blew out from the ground, creating a small wave of qi on the ground. "It's young Master Sima. What a strong power! Do you feel the energy fluctuations in the air?" "No, I can feel it trembling under my feet." "Damn, you stepped on my foot." "Ugh, I'm sorry. Sima Tian is finally going to make a move." "I'm too excited. I just want to see Sima Tian ruthlessly beat that brat up right now." "Beat him up. Then you've underestimated young Master Sima. He never left anyone alive when he attacked." "That's true. No one has ever offended the Sima family and still managed to leave the Holy King City alive." "Don't talk. Young Master Sima is about to make his move." Whispers were heard all around. Many people wanted to see Long Fei become a joke. Long Fei was calm. To be exact, his gaze basically did not look at Sima Tian, as if he did not even exist, and was just like how it was in the beginning. A few gorgeous dressed young girls beside him reminded him in a low voice, "Young master, Sima Tian is not someone that is easy to mess with. You should be more careful. Half of Holy King City belongs to the Sima family. You must not offend him. Young master, we can't help you. You have to be careful." The girls beside Long Fei were all extremely afraid of Sima Tian. At the same time he arrived in front of Long Fei, they all drew back, not daring to meet his eyes. Long Fei stood there quietly, not moving at all. Sima Tian's aura exploded. Boom! The supreme force attacked. It formed a violent energy wave and attacked Long Fei. It appeared. The unique supreme force of the Sima family is able to break a person's heart veins, and Sima Tian has even cultivated this kind of unique supreme force to be as pure as fire. That kid's heart meridian is about to break. His 7 orifices are bleeding. However, Long Fei did not move. The supreme force Sima Tian released. Indistinctly, he came across some kind of power. It was like a fart, and it wasn't loud at all. There was no reaction at all. Sima Tian secretly tensed up between his brows and said with a heavy voice, "Kid, either you kneel, kowtow, and apologize, or I won't let you leave the Holy King City." Long Fei did not move, nor did he speak. Still, it was as if he hadn't heard her, as if he hadn't seen her at all. The muscles at the corner of Sima Tian's eyes twitched. "Did you hear what I said?" Raging flames of fury. The aura of his energy also burned as he frantically released it. Strength stripes could be seen with the naked eye. Many of the surrounding people were forced back by the power released from his body. However, Long Fei was the same, motionless. This made Sima Tian even more furious. "Ignore your father? Today I will let you know my Sima Tian's methods." Boom! Both of his fists moved, releasing a golden supreme force. Sima family's sacred fist. Damn, Sima Tian is completely enraged. The first one to start is Sima Sheng Fist. Then this kid is dead for sure. Serves him right. A punch brewed. A small whirlpool appeared on his fist, constantly absorbing energy and punching out. This time, Long Fei moved. However, he merely raised his arm slightly and raised a finger. Buzz! Sima Tian's fist struck Long Fei's raised finger. His fingers didn't move at all. On the other hand, the joints of Sima Tian's fist exploded out, from his fingers to the bones of his entire arm. This! Sima Tian took a deep breath and was about to scream. However, his throat was choked by a surge of power, and he couldn't even cry out in pain. Long Fei said coldly, "I only said one word. Scram." His finger descended. Sima Tian's body instantly bounced out. Bam! He rolled a dozen times on the ground before stopping. His face was pale, and his right arm hung down. He couldn't lift it at all. Just a slight movement would cause excruciating pain. His eyes were blazing with anger. Sima Tian's teeth chattered loudly, but he did not move forward, because he knew that he wasn't a match for them. However, he knew even more that Long Fei was dead for sure. He wasn't a match for them, but the Sima family had many experts. He endured the pain. Sima Tian fled in an extremely sorry state. In the entire process, Long Fei did not even glance at them, as if he was a god. In his eyes, everything was just a common thing. He did not need to care about it at all. As Sima Tian ran further, the people on both sides of the street looked at Long Fei as if he was a plague. No one dared to approach him, as they were afraid that they would be infected if they did. They actually dare to offend the Sima family? He actually dares to cripple Sima Tian's hand. Is he crazy? Bro, what last words do you have for the Sima family's experts before they arrive? Hurry up and leave. If you don't leave now, you won't be able to leave ever again. Long Fei did not move. Elder Lu's eyes turned cold within the Saint Ruler Pavilion. Another elder asked, "Just what is he planning to do?" Many girls felt that Long Fei had become even more handsome now that he had been forced away. Many girls felt that Long Fei had become even more handsome now that he had been forced away. They were the heroes of their dreams. Their hearts couldn't help but throb, but no one dared to step forward because, no matter how much they liked Long Fei, they couldn't go forward. They knew in their hearts that the consequences of offending the Sima clan in the Holy King City would be dire. They could only stare at Long Fei from afar in silence. This is good too. Long Fei landed on the ground in complete silence. Time's up. Suddenly, a voice came from the Saint Ruler Pavilion. Immediately, everyone looked at the Saint Ruler Pavilion and all became excited again. It's starting to sell. It's starting to sell. Finally, it's time. Crash. The 4 doors opened. Everyone flocked to the door. I want the elixir. I want the elixir. I want an immortal martial technique. An immortal martial technique. Formations. 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 Demon Beast, War Pet. In an instant, the entire street was filled with noise and excitement. In an instant, no one was discussing what just happened. The elder on the Saint Ruler Pavilion kept his eyes on Long Fei as he watched him slowly move forward with the group. He warned him, "Let's see what he wants to buy." A disciple said, "Yes. Go downstairs." Elder Lu laughed disdainfully. "I think what he needs the most right now is not some pill or weapon, but a coffin." Elder Lei, what do you think? Elder Lei laughed and did not say a word. When Elder Lu saw that Elder Lei did not speak, he could not help but sneer and said, "Elder Lei, do not forget why you are here today. Today's batch of pills was personally concocted by my master to test the medicinal properties of the pills, and you are the guardian of this test. You have to carry out the test perfectly." Understood. Elder Lu's heart was filled with contempt. When he said that, he was reminding Elder Lei not to think about helping that Long Fei fellow. Otherwise, the consequences would be dire. His master was the Taoist Master Lu. The strongest alchemy master in the Holy King sect was also the vice sect master. As long as the effect of the new pill was good, he would be able to offer it to the God's tribe, and maybe the presbyter of God's tribe would like it. Then he would be able to successfully enter the shrine. Thus, this test is very important. The Elder Lei was sent to ensure that this test would be carried out successfully. Elder Lei said solemnly, "I know where my own self-blame lies." Elder Lu said, "It's best if you know. I got it. Ha ha. I bought a pill personally refined by the Taoist Master Lu. I got it too. I can feel that this pill seems to have a consciousness. It seems to be pulsing. Too awesome." All of them were excited. This kind of pill could easily be sold for a fortune. Long Fei leisurely walked to the window and said, "I want a medicinal pellet." The disciple at the window looked at Long Fei and said, 1,000,000 grand mist crystals. A single pill was worth 1,000,000 grand mist crystals. This price was a bit frightening. Long Fei hesitated. The disciple inside seemed a bit impatient and said, "Are you going to buy it or not? If you don't want to buy it, then don't take the spot." Long Fei replied, "I don't have any money." Grand mist crystal? To be honest, he had been in the universal realm for a long time and didn't know about things like the grand mist crystals. He started cultivating after entering the universal realm and didn't care about money at all. Money, this kind of thing, did not even exist in Powerhouse's eyes. However, in the eyes of ordinary people, it was truly a lifelong pursuit. "Ha ha, no money? What are you doing here with no money?" I knew he was just Xiao Bai's face. What does he know? Poor bastard, huh? Brat, if you don't have the money, then scram. Don't waste our time. F***CK, are you kidding me? That disciple was also very unhappy and directly scolded. If you don't have money, then scram to the side. You want to buy Ling Dawn with such a poor soul? Scram to the side. Soon, the conversation downstairs reached upstairs. Elder Lu smiled slightly and said, "As expected, his face is that of a Xiao Bai with a bright surface, and he can't even take out 1,000,000 grand mist crystals. What kind of expert is he like this? Ha. Tell him to scram far away. Don't wait until the Sima family's people come and mess up my business." Elder Lu said heavily. He was not finished. One of the disciples quickly ran up and said, "Elders, you two had better go down and have a look." Elder Lu's eyebrows tightened. The Sima family's people have come? With his cultivation level, it was impossible for him to climb a few floors. However, he was currently blushing and gasping for breath, his face filled with excitement as he said, "No, you guys go take a look. You'll know once you see it. I can't make up my mind." Elder Lu had a look of displeasure on his face. Useless, unable to do anything small. Elder Lei said, "Let's go down and take a look." Elder Lu was 100 times unwilling, but he still walked on. In the hall on the first floor of the Saint Ruler Pavilion, purple light curled up as an imposing manner surged forth. It was as if one was standing in the middle of a gigantic spirit-gathering array. It was abnormally intense. This is the holy artifact. Furthermore, he was not an ordinary holy artifact. He was definitely a top-grade holy artifact. It was hard to imagine. The disciple outside the window was stunned. His entire body was like a wooden doll as he stood there motionlessly, unable to utter a single word. He had seen the holy artifact in the hands of some elders, but compared to the holy artifact in front of his eyes, there was simply no comparison. The holy artifact he had seen in the past were like ants. Elder Lu walked down the stairs and said unhappily, "What happened?" Before he could finish his words, he was also stunned. His eyes narrowed as he stared at the window. Elder Lei was shocked. Superior quality, holy artifact. My God! Let alone these disciples. Even he had never seen holy artifact of this level. The entire hall was silent. The disciple's face was full of astonishment. He did not dare move, and even more so, did not dare to touch the thing that Long Fei had taken out. Long Fei said indifferently, "Is this okay? A top-grade holy artifact. Using this to exchange for a spirit pill that was worth 1,000,000 grand mist crystals? If this person wasn't retarded, then he must be crazy." The disciple was even more shocked. Just a moment ago, he was still jeering at the poor bastard, but now he had taken out a high-quality holy artifact. This caused him to not be able to react in time. No one could react. All of them were shocked by this high-quality holy artifact. "Isn't it enough?" Long Fei muttered in his heart. He did not have any concept of money, nor did he have any concept of how much a holy artifact was worth. No matter what happened outside, he would only cultivate. The ascension world after world, from beginning to end, was the same. Cultivation, cultivation. Thus, he had no idea what money was. Seeing their stupefied expressions, Long Fei flipped his right hand, and a divine treasure that emitted a purple divine light appeared in his hand. He said indifferently, 2 pieces is enough. With a serious and solemn expression, there was no intention for him to play around with Zhangxian at all. With a serious and solemn expression, there was no intention for him to play around with Zhangxian at all. This time, all of the Holy King's sect were trembling, including the 2 elders. His tongue was trembling. Is Holy King's sect awesome? Awesome. A sect at the level of an overlord. Its sect master was even a sovereign realm powerhouse, was a distinguished guest of the God's Tribe Palace, and had no less than 100 holy artifact. But if he did not even have a single high-rank holy artifact, then there was no need to talk about high-rank divine spirit artifacts like these. Right now, Long Fei started with 2, and it looked like he was doing it casually. If this kind of person wasn't stupid, then it could only be described with one word. The trenches. Extremely domineering, somersaulting back to Thomas's trench at 720 degrees. The disciple's entire body trembled as he turned his head to look at the elder. Elder Lu swallowed his saliva and rushed forward. Enough, 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 enough. His voice was shaking. One of his hands grabbed onto the 2 holy artifacts. In the instant he held on to them, his arm trembled as if he was flying in the sky. The excitement in his heart was incomparable. That disciple's eyes were also shining brightly. Thinking to himself, how much did the Holy King's sect earn from this transaction? While he was still in a daze, Elder Lu spoke in a low voice. What are you still standing there for? Hurry up and give the spirit pellets to her. The disciple reacted and immediately took out a small bottle. Just as he was about to hand it over, the corners of Elder Lu's eyes became sinister. He pushed the disciple away and said, Slow down. Don't you know that the guest is waiting for us? Furthermore, how can this kind of pill be compatible with such a precious customer? He changed the bottle into a smaller one, picked up a red one, and handed it over, saying, This is a pill refined personally by my master. 1 pellet doesn't need to absorb the spiritual chi of heaven and earth for 3 years. I guarantee that your cultivation will increase by leaps and bounds. Elder Lei's gaze tensed up. Others might not know, but he was very clear that the pellet on the red ground was a newly developed pellet for testing and using the Xiaobai mouse for experiments. Moreover, this time was even more different. This pill was extremely dangerous. The one who consumed it, so far none of them had survived. It was obvious that Elder Lu was doing this on purpose. He wanted Long Fei to die, because when he saw Long Fei taking out the pellets from the space ring, his eyes had always been staring at the ring on Long Fei's finger. If he were to casually take out 2 holy artifacts, how many of them would he have? It was unimaginable. If he could obtain this ring, then he would be rich. Elder Lei walked over and said, Do you want some other pills? Elder Lu's eyes slightly narrowed and said with sound transmission, Lei Heng, what are you trying to do? You dare to spoil my plans? The Elder Lei replied with a voice transmission, Elder Lu, he has already given us 2 holy artifacts. You can't harm him anymore, right? Elder Lu said, Can you and me obtain the holy artifact for the next 2 years? Isn't it because we need to hand it over? This guy casually took out 2 super holy artifacts. Who knows how many more he has? As long as we kill him, the treasures in the space ring will be ours. Don't worry, I'll definitely give you some. Are you willing to become a small elder in your entire life? Are you willing to have it stay in the West Peak region? Lei Heng, this is a chance to defy the heavens and change fate. Are you willing to miss it? Every word struck the heart. He was eager to get rich. There could not be a person in this world who used a super holy artifact to exchange for pellets. And if there was, that person would definitely be a fool. Elder Lu felt as if a pie had fallen from the sky right in front of him. If he didn't catch it, he would regret it for the rest of his life. Lei Heng wanted to advise Elder Lu, but his words had ruined his mind. A high-quality holy artifact could really change their lives. Lei Heng became silent. Elder Lu gave a respectful smile as he handed over the bottle. Be careful with this. This pill is limited to your purchases. Long Fei took it, opened the stopper, and placed it beside his nose to smell it. Elder Lu was startled and said, Don't worry, this is a pill that I refined personally by releasing Taoist Master Lu. It is definitely worth it. Long Fei laughed, then raised his head and consumed it. If one wanted to know the level of the pills in this world, the best way was to try it out. Seeing Long Fei pour the spirit medicine into his mouth, Elder Lu's eyes grew even wider, his fists clenched tightly. He became even more nervous than Long Fei. I was afraid that Long Fei wouldn't consume it, but now, seeing him consume it back then, his heart started to jump with joy. Ha ha! Now everything that's on him is mine. I'm going to send it. As long as there's a super holy artifact, what can a mere holy king sect do? I also want to enter the God's tribe. Enter the shrine, huh? He couldn't help but feel excited as he thought of this. Long Fei drank it all in one gulp, felt it slightly, and muttered, "Is Universal Realms medicine only at this level?" There was a hint of disappointment in his eyes. He had hoped for it, but after taking it, the level of this pill was too weak, whether it was in terms of methods, quality of spirit medicine, or even the choice of spirit grass. Everything was a mess. It was as if the image of this pellet appearing in his mind from the moment it was selected to the moment it was refined into a pellet. Every step was wrong. Thus, what a mess. Although this is a testing pellet, one must know that this pellet came from the Taoist Master Lu. He is a Grand Master of Alchemy and is the #1 powerhouse in the Western Peak region. Any spirit grass that passed by his hands would be able to unleash an extremely powerful force. How could it be a mess? After consuming it, Long Fei grinned and said, "Too weak." With that, Long Fei turned and left. Elder Lu's eyes narrowed. Wait. Long Fei stopped and asked, "Is there anything else?" Elder Lu said, "Do you have no reaction after taking this pill?" Long Fei said, "What kind of reaction do you want?" He didn't react at all. The pill was like a beam to him, completely devoid of any spiritual power. This was because the spiritual energy within this pill was too weak to sense his current cultivation. Elder Lu's heart tightened. How is he fine? Could it be that the pill teacher developed has succeeded? That's not right. If he succeeded, he wouldn't be in this state right now. Long Fei was about to leave again. Elder Lu shouted again, "Kid, what did you say just now? Do you think this pill is too weak? Are you insulting Taoist Master Lu?" He had to keep Long Fei. No matter what price he had to pay, he had to keep Long Fei here, because he wanted to obtain Long Fei's space ring. It was also at this time. Sima Tian pointed at Long Fei, who was dressed in white in the crowd, and heavily shouted, "Father, it's him." On the side of the street, over 100 men rushed over with a murderous look on their faces. On the side of the street, over 100 men rushed over with a murderous look on their faces. The one leading them was the Sima Tian, who had crippled his arm. He didn't examine his arm, but brought the Sima family's clansmen out as soon as possible. The Sima family ate everything they had, but they didn't suffer any losses. He had never been bullied in the Holy King City. Sima Tian stared at Long Fei and said, "I, Sima Tian, have always bullied people. No one has ever dared to bully me." "Dog, today, not even the gods can save you," Sima Tian said fiercely. The members of the Sima family looked at Long Fei as well. Long Fei was still the same as before, with a calm expression and eyes that turn a blind eye, as if Sima Tian was not talking about him. He didn't seem to care at all, because Sima Tian was simply not qualified. When Elder Lu saw the Sima family come out, his eyes narrowed, and he said, "Brat, the Sima family is the strongest family in the Holy King City, and they even have Overlord Realmess. If you want to live, then obediently listen to my orders. My family will definitely not dare to touch you." Long Fei was the same. He didn't bother about her. Elder Lu's eyes grew sinister as his heart grew angry. "Brat, you better think this through. I am the only one who can save you." Long Fei suddenly stopped. Seeing Long Fei turn around, he said, "That's more like it. In the entire Holy King City, only I can save you." Long Fei said indifferently, "What are the conditions?" He was very direct and didn't want to be long-winded. Elder Lu stared at the space ring on Long Fei's finger and said, "I want everything inside your space ring." Long Fei frowned. Elder Lu saw that Long Fei's face changed slightly and immediately said, "If you don't have anything to forge, you can continue to buy, but if my life is gone, then everything is gone." Long Fei chuckled and said, "You're right. Life only has one. You should treasure it well." Elder Lu thought Long Fei had communicated with him and laughed. "You're right." However, before he could finish speaking, Long Fei's expression suddenly darkened, and she said coldly, "You sell the evil spirit pellet. Once consumed, it will turn into a beast and become a killing machine, making people hear your rats. You can die for your crimes. You are greedy beyond measure. Too high-quality, holy artifact can't satisfy you, and you still want more holy artifact. Die for your crimes. You can die for insulting me." Everyone was stunned. They were a little confused as to what Long Fei was saying. Elder Lu had a teasing look on his face as he sneered, "Kid, do you know who you were talking to? I'll give you one last chance. I want you to kneel on the ground now and pass your space ring to me with both hands. If not," Long Fei said with a faint voice, "otherwise, what do you think?" Elder Lu said, "Otherwise, you will die here." Death hadn't finished. Long Fei's fingertip lightly throbbed. Bam! A stream of blood spurted out from Elder Lu's forehead. A small hole appeared on his forehead, with only a finger or so. Elder Lu stood on the spot with bulging eyes. However, he could not say a word. It had already been seconds. Moreover, he didn't even know how he died. No one knew. They only saw Long Fei's fingertip move slightly, and then, there was no then. The surroundings of the Saint Ruler Pavilion immediately became quiet. All eyes were focused on Long Fei. Lei Hang's mouth was agape. He looked at Elder Lu in shock and touched him lightly. Bam! Elder Lu fell to the ground and crashed onto the floor, his body still for a moment. "Dead! Dead!" Lei Hang shouted out in shock. His two eyes looked at Long Fei, who had already turned around, and looked at his back, as if he was looking at death. That kind of pressure was unprecedented, but he was, after all, the person in charge of the safety of the auction. Now that the elder was dead in front of him, he had to do something. Lei Hang gathered his courage and shouted, "Stand, stand, stop!" Long Fei did not stop and continued walking slowly. The few disciples of Holy King's sect did not understand how Elder Lu died, but they did not believe that it was Long Fei who killed him. Seeing that Long Fei did not stop, they bellowed, "The elder told you to stand. Did you not hear him? You dog! You don't care about giving me face, right? You're courting death." The three of them attacked at the same time, aiming for the back of Long Fei's head. The cultivation levels of the three weren't low as they simultaneously launched sneak attacks. No one would leave their back empty. In such a situation, it was actually very dangerous. However, the three of them rushed to Long Fei's back. Bang, bang, bang. 3 muffled explosions sounded out. Then, 3 streams of blood mist flew out, and the 3 of them turned into 3 streams of blood mist. There was nothing left, not even a single bone fragment falling to the ground. What kind of power was this? Who is he? Many people felt their scalps go numb looking at Long Fei. This was too strange. He had no idea what was going on. A few more disciples rushed towards Long Fei, summoning all kinds of immortal martial techniques, using their most powerful killing techniques, and attacking Long Fei. It was the same. Before they could even touch Long Fei, their bodies had already turned into a bloody mist with a few pung, pung sounds. At this moment, as Long Fei walked on the main street, the people on both sides of the street quickly retreated, not daring to come close at all. He was like a god of death walking in the world. Just a glance was enough to make the other party use their soul flying. "You're not allowed to leave." Lei Hang let out a loud sound as he looked at the disciples who rushed up to him one by one, and then turned them all into a bloody mist one after another. Long Fei's strength had far exceeded his expectations, so strong that it was unimaginable. Long Fei didn't pay attention to all of them, and he didn't dare to step forward either. Finally, Long Fei walked in front of Sima Tian. At this moment, the members of the Sima family also quickly retreated, not daring to look Long Fei in the eye. Sima Tion's Adam's apple rolled and trembled nonstop. Sensing the aura on Long Fei's body, he was immediately scared to the point of peeing, his pants dripping with urine. He now knew what kind of person he had offended. Seeing one person after another charge towards Long Fei and become a bloody mist, he no longer wanted to seek revenge. All he wanted to do now was to leave this place. Long Fei, who was standing by his side, lightly paused and said with a faint voice, "You don't even have the qualifications to die in my hands, understand?" Finished. Long Fei walked out with large strides. Only after Long Fei had walked 10 meters away did Sima Tian finally kneel on the ground with a thump. His expression suddenly became incomparably pale as he broke out in cold sweat, and he was completely unable to get up. The Sima clan chief looked at Long Fei. He really wanted to rush up to him, but in that instant, his mind seemed to have been ruthlessly stepped on, rendering him completely unable to move. At this moment, on top of the Saint Ruler Pavilion, a disciple shot out a rocket. Boom! The rocket launcher rose into the air and exploded. Holy King Sect. Sect Master. Holy King City has sent a distress signal. The highest level distress signal. Holy King's Hall. Holy King's Hall. The current sect master, Zhu Qinggang, sat on his high seat as he listened to the various reports. I have already spread the news of the 13 dragon ancestor hanging at the entrance of a shrine to the 3 continents, 8 counties, 19 clans, and all the powers within the territory of our Holy King sect. I have asked them to spread the news as soon as possible. It's more or less the same for me. As long as it's a first-rate clan, I've notified them as well. Sect Master, if that kid from Long family is really in our West Peak region, he must already know that the 13th dragon ancestor is on the verge of death. Yeah, I'll bet that kid is definitely not in the West Peak region. Regardless of whether they are here or not, this is something the Gods tribe has instructed us to do. Even if they aren't, we have to use all our strength to do so. That's right, God tribe is determined to deal with that brat Long family this time. If that brat doesn't die, God's tribe will definitely not let him go. I heard that that brat is the reincarnation of some powerful powerhouse from ancient world, and he has fought with Emperor Xian more than one time. It's just that every time he lost, the Emperor Xian would crush him. It's definitely the same at one time. We can't win against the God's tribe, but we can't win against him. A fly flying around in front of you is also very annoying. In the eyes of the God's tribe, Long Fei was just a fly. He wanted to grind Long Fei's bones to dust. The 13th dragon ancestor hung out at the entrance of the shrine, and blood flowed out like a river. They wanted Long Fei to come and fight with them, and they wanted everyone to see the outcome of their fight with the God's tribe. Zhu Qinggang said indifferently, "We will do our best to complete the God's tribe's orders. During this period of time, let go of what you have on hand. Hurry up and spread the news of the 13th dragon ancestor's impending death." The elders nodded their heads. Zhu Qinggang turned his head to the side and said, "Junior brother, how is your medicine making progress? I have already recommended you to an elder of the God's tribe. If you're able to successfully create the pill this time, then it would be much easier to obtain the qualifications to enter the descendant of God's tribe." Taoist Master Lu's eyes tightened as a light flashed in them. His eyes were filled with desire as he said, "My disciple has already been sent to test the medicinal properties of the pills. I believe there will be results today. If my expectations are met." The corner of his mouth slightly rose as he smiled excitedly. "Then my evil beast pill can?" The research was a success. Zhu Qinggang replied heavily, "All right. Right now, all of the sects in Universal Realm are competing in secret. If 2 of us from the Holy King sect are able to enter the shrine, then we, the Holy King sect, will have the absolute authority to speak. Junior brother, don't let me down." Taoist Master Lu said, "Don't worry, senior brother, we will definitely not fail again." At this moment, a disciple hurriedly entered the hall and reporting to sect leader, Holy King City has sent a distress signal. Zhu Chenggang was startled. Rescue signal? The disciple continued. It's the highest level of distress signal. What? Everyone in the hall was shocked. What did the highest distress signal mean? This meant that the danger must be solved by the sect master himself. The earth on your head? You must be tired of living. Holy King City? Someone dare to make a move on the people of Holy King sect? He really has the gall to eat leopards. Could it have been a mistake? For the highest level signal, could it be that a sovereign realm powerhouse has come? Could it be the people from the Heavenly Abyss sect came to cause trouble? Heavenly Abyss sect? Even if their sect master was given 10 times the guts, he still wouldn't dare. The crowd broke out into a flurry of discussion. Taoist Master Lu had been silent the entire time, thinking about the powers within Holy King City. He did not believe that someone from the Heavenly Abyss sect would come and cause trouble, nor did he believe that someone would dare to lay a hand on someone from Holy King sect. A light flashed in his mind. Suddenly, Taoist Master Lu said with a heavy voice, "Success." The entire palace went silent. Zhu Qinggang asked, "What did you succeed?" Taoist Master Lu said with incomparable excitement, "I studied the evil beast pill. One pellet swallowed would cause a beast to turn berserk, and its power would increase by 10 times. Under this kind of situation, who can resist?" That must be it. It must have been a success. The Taoist Master Lu became even more excited. He now absolutely believed that he had succeeded in his research. If they did not succeed, there would be no disturbance, and there would not be the highest level of distress signal. In the West Peak region, who didn't know that the Holy King sect was a subordinate of the God's tribe? Who dares to move? Even if he was not afraid of Holy King sect, could it be that he was not afraid of God's tribe? Hearing him say that, Zhu Chenggang also smiled faintly and said, "Junior brother, then I must congratulate you. As long as you give this pill to God's tribe, you will definitely get a lot of rewards, and at that time, you can also become a member of Shrine." Ha! Ha! The two of them laughed, after which all the elders in the hall began to laugh. Only the disciple who reported it stood there with a stupefied expression. The highest level distress signal, this was definitely a crisis, but everyone was laughing. Was this something to be happy about? After a long time, that disciple asked weakly, "Sect Master, then should we send someone to rescue him?" Zhu Chenggang said, "Go, of course I will go." The highest level distress signal. According to the sect rules, I have to go as well. Everyone here has to go and take a look. Of course, we're not here to save him. We're here to watch a show. Today, we must see the results of Junior Brother's pill. Taoist Master Lu stood up and said, "I will definitely not disappoint this senior brother. Let's go. Go to Holy King City." All of the clan elders followed Sect Master Zhu Chenggang out of the sect and headed towards the Holy King City. This was a good show. Zhu Chenggang calculated in his heart. Once his junior brother enters the shrine, his position in the Holy King sect will be even more stable. However, all of this depended on the results of this medicinal pill. Holy King City. Long Fei walked leisurely, and his eyes revealed a slight disappointment, because the pills in this world were simply too terrible. Just pills, and not just that, they were also a type of evil pill, which made him even more disappointed. Sigh, forget it. Let's not waste any more time. I need to find my original body as soon as possible. I don't know what's going on, but I clearly sensed that my real face was still alive. So why didn't he respond? What happened in this period of time? Long Fei pondered as he walked. Could it be that my real face has already entered the ancient world? The distance is too far, so he can't sense my position? Should I enter the ancient world first? He was extremely depressed in his heart. He had been out for several days now, and continuously sent messages to the real face, but there was no response. Suddenly, behind him, the Sima family's chief said in a low voice, "Kid, you can't escape." In the beginning, the Sima clan did not even dare to look at Long Fei. In the beginning, the Sima clan did not even dare to look at Long Fei. Now it suddenly exploded? You want to die? No, that's not it. The Sima family's patriarch knew the level of the distress signal he had sent out. He had been holding back and knew that there was a black mass flying over from the Saint Ruler Mountain. He let out a long breath and grinned. Brat, you won't be able to leave today. Holy King sect of the Holy King sect had come. After killing so many people from the Holy King sect, Long Fei simply could not escape. However, Clan Chief Sima's words were loud, but they were useless. Long Fei simply ignored him, because, in his world, these people did not even exist. There was no need to exist. He completely ignored them. Lei Hang also saw the pitch-black sky and saw the sect master from afar. His eyes also shone brightly as he said solemnly, Brat, stop right there. After killing so many people from the Holy King sect, you won't be able to go anywhere today. He started to admire Long Fei. However, he cared more about himself. He was initially very afraid, but now that the sect head was here, there was no need to worry. Because Ancestor Zhu Changgang was the #1 powerhouse of the West Peak region, the supreme powerhouse of the sovereign realm. There were very few powerhouses that could compete with Ji Zun in her realm. No matter how powerful Long Fei was, he was no match for her. However, Long Fei still did not stop and continued walking forward silently. Boom! A sonic boom resounded. Zhu Qinggang was the first to fall down. Taoist Master Lu was the second to land on the ground. Looking at his surroundings, he expected something was different. He should have been thinking of a scene of corpses streaking across the fields, buildings collapsing, and ruins everywhere. No, everyone here was fine and unaffected. There wasn't a single beast transformed human. Boom, boom, boom. One by one, the elders fell down. Dozens of elders. The same kind of powerhouse. Seeing this scene, the surrounding commoners were all incomparably shocked. Many people directly kneeled on the ground. It's the sovereign. It's the sect master of the Holy King sect, the legendary sovereign realm powerhouse, the #1 powerhouse of the West Peak region. Wow, so cool. There's also the #1 alchemy master and Taoist Master Lu. All of them have appeared. This is too amazing, isn't it? My God, I've never seen so many powerhouses in my life. Right now, that kid is in trouble. I'm afraid he will die miserably. It's definitely hard to escape death. Offending anyone isn't good, but he has to offend the Holy King sect. He doesn't want to live. The crowd started to discuss. As for the appearance of Zhu Qinggang, everyone was stunned. The Sima family's head was incomparably shocked. Taoist Master Lu's gaze swept across his heart and secretly shivered. He then immediately asked Lei Hang, What's going on? What about Lu Dong? Zhu Chenggang could not help but ask. That's right. Where is Elder Lu? Why is there no one here? And why didn't he have a single disciple from the Holy King sect? Where is he? Lei Hang immediately knelt to the ground with a plop and said, Sect Master, Elder Lu, he is dead. What? Zhu Qinggang's gaze tightened. Dead? Who did it? Without waiting for Lei Hang to speak, the chief of the Sima family quickly walked over and also knelt down. Lord Sect Master, it's him. He pointed at Long Fei, who was silently walking forward. As for the things that happened behind the scenes, it was still the same. He completely ignored them. Zhu Chenggang followed his finger and looked over, saw Long Fei slowly walking forward, and said him. His aura trembled slightly. It could be said that not to mention this place. Even if there were tens of millions of citizens in the entire Holy King city, the auras being emitted by the warriors would not be able to escape his senses. Moreover, he could even sense the cultivation level of this person at the first moment. The cultivation realm of Long Fei. Very strange. Nothing. How strange? Zhu Chenggang asked. Is Lei Hang him? Lei Hang nodded and said, Sect Master, that's him. Elder Lu died by his hands, and so did all the surrounding disciples. He could not believe what the Sima clan chief said, but he had no choice but to believe what Lei Hang said. An elder asked, So many people died. Where are the bodies? Why is there not a single corpse? Lei Hang said, His methods are extremely sinister, turning everyone into a blood mist. Look at the thin layer of blood on the ground. These are all left behind by Elder Lu and the others. What? How preposterous! Several elders were already infuriated. Taoist Master Lu asked, "Did he take the spirit pellet I refined?" Lei Hang replied, "Reporting to Vice Sect Master, Elder Lu gave him the pill you refined. He consumed it on the spot, but—" Taoist Master Lu's gaze tensed up and said, "But what?" Lei Hang said, He said that the pills you refined were a complete mess. They would only harm people. And it was also because of this that Elder Lu was killed. He had concealed the matter of the high-level holy artifact. Now, other than him, no one knew that Long Fei had a top-grade holy artifact. If Long Fei died, and he could obtain that space ring, perhaps he would be able to enter the God Shrine Palace before the Taoist Master Lu. A person's desire is limitless. Even in this kind of situation, they still have to think about themselves. Hope ignited in Taoist Master Lu's eyes once again. He looked at the sovereign and said, "Senior brother, he might have mutated." Zhu Qinggang asked, "What do you mean?" The Taoist Master Lu replied, "This kind of beast transformation pill is currently unstable. Even though he hasn't turned into a beast, the aura on his body is very special. It's definitely related to the pill that I refined." Zhu Qinggang asked, "Then what do we do now?" Taoist Master Lu said, "Catch him first. I want to study him. I want to know what kind of reaction my pills will have." Zhu Qinggang replied, "Got it. Capture him for me." After which, the two elders walked out. Lei Hang immediately said, "Sect Master, this person is very powerful. I must—" Not waiting for him to finish, the two elders immediately laughed mockingly. "Lei Hang, you must be scared silly, right? What a useless thing." After finishing their sentence, the two of them rushed forward like they were flying. As they chased, they said, "Little bastard, you want to leave after killing my holy King Sect's people? Then you really do not place the holy King Sect in your eyes." Boom, boom, boom. With the release of the Supreme Force, a powerful aura formed an intimidating aura that pressed down on him, layer by layer. However, it was completely useless. The aura seemed to have vanished into thin air, with no reaction at all. The two elders looked at each other, their eyes darkened, and their hands reached towards the back of Long Fei's head. Buzz! Kacha, kacha! A series of bone-cracking sounds could be heard. The two elders were sent flying and smashed into the ground. Bang, bang. He vomited blood and lay on the ground, unable to get up. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.